now. We had a late finish to the AM session, so we're going to begin the PM session shortly. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Due to COVID-19, Committee of Adjustment public hearings are being conducted virtually by electronic means through WebEx webinar, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. Participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx webinar, which is moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch it on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting via their computer, tablet, smartphone, and telephone, and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All participants will automatically be muted upon entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by city staff, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called upon to speak. Please use only one device at a time, as use of additional devices can cause static noise and may interfere with the audio of this hearing. To ensure further audio clarity, we also suggest that you do not use the speaker phone function of your telephone. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled and you will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. All other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Many members of the public and applicants are not allowed to use the share screen option or any other panelist controls during your video appearance. City staff will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. For all those who are waiting online, please ensure that you have called in with the phone number that you originally registered. If you call in with a different number, you will not be able to speak on the item. At this time, we wish to make an important land acknowledgement. We are participating in this public hearing today online from council chambers at the North York Civic Centre. We would like to begin this meeting with an acknowledgement that Indigenous communities have been part of this land and this area's history since time immemorial. We would like to acknowledge the land on which we reside and work with gratitude and respect. It is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, and the Chippewas, and the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and we are all encouraged to reflect upon our commitments, both collectively and individually, in taking steps towards meaningful reconciliation with Indigenous communities. Now, in accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990, as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustments of the City of Toronto is called to order. My name is Nadini Sankar-Peralta, and I will chair today's meeting. Joining us on the panel today are our astute members, Nazila Atarodi West, Paul Kidd, Giuseppe Bartolo, and Natasha Manning. City staff are also present, our Deputy Secretary Treasurer, Simon Lamb, and some very hardworking planning staff, Sam Mozayani, make sure I got that right, Giovanna Rizzio, and Irving Bridgeraj. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that applies to property, permission to extend and alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. Anyone attending today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, your address, and your email address because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body, the TLAB, will be sending notifications and appeal dates updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision through the TLAB or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Lands Tribunal. However, the provincial government recently amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. As of November 28, 2022, only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies, as those terms are defined in the Planning Act, are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. The hearing procedures are as follows. I will call each member in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair if they still wish to speak to an item. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for decision. Each speaker, including the agent or applicant, is given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. And I will ask you to summarize your remarks when you are reaching the 5-minute mark without exception. When addressing this committee, please state clearly your name and your address. Remember to confine your remarks to the matters described only in the application. The applicant or agent proceeds first and will make their presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to the proposals at the hearing today. To ensure that the revised application is accurate and all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes, the committee may decide to defer the application if it is substantially revised. Then individuals in either support or in opposition to the application will be invited to speak. If more than one individual wishes to speak to this application, we ask that you try not to repeat the points already made by others. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the previous speakers within a 5-minute time frame. This will mark the end of the discussion on the item, and the application will be taken into committee for decision. So now I'd like to just double check with the panel members. Do you have any conflicts of interest to note for this PM session? Okay, none noted and none for myself as well. Ms. Member Manning also has indicated none to declare. Any files to close again for the PM session?
Through you, Madam Chair, there are no files to close today.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Secretary Treasurer. And finally, we'll move on to deferral requests. I do know that we have one deferral request for this PM session, and that is item number 23, and that's 56 PARKVIEW Avenue. 56 PARKVIEW Avenue. Give me 1 second. I would like to call the agent, which is an Addison Milne Price. Addison Milne Price, are you there?
Afternoon, that is, Madam Chair and fellow committee members.
Great. And perhaps if you can just state your name and address again, just for our records.
Yes, my name is Addison Milne Price. I'm a planner at Design Plan Services of 900 The East Mall, Suite 300.
Okay, and if you can share with us why you're wishing to defer this application.
Absolutely. As stated in my formal deferral request letter submitted to C of A staff, a deferral will allow us to have more time to consult with planning staff with respect to some of the concerns they've identified with the proposal. Through these discussions with staff, we hope to update the plans and obtain a new zoning notice.
Okay, So, committee members, do you have any questions of the agent here today? There's no one else to speak to this application. So if not, can I get a motion on this deferral, please? Member Manning.
Through you, Madam Chair, motion to defer this application, sine die.
Okay, motion from Member Manning to defer. Can I get someone to second that? Seconded by Member Attarodi. All those in favor? Okay. Mr. Price, your application has been deferred, sine die. Okay, Mr.
Thank you.
Deputy Secretary Treasurer, is there any other deferral request?
That's all I know for now.
Thank you. All right, members, let's begin with the first item on the afternoon session, and that is item number 18, which is 3 Deepwood Crescent. 3 Deepwood Crescent. Has 3 variances. There's only one speaker noted, and that is a Peter Giordano. Mr. Giordano, are you there? Peter Giordano?
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Yes. If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Absolutely. Peter Giordano, David Small Designs. We're the designers and authorized agents. Address 1405 Cornwall Road in Oakville.
Okay. Mr. Giordano, I see that you're the only one noted here. I don't seem to have any other staff reports. Members, do you feel we need a presentation on this application? Okay, there being none. Mr. Giordano, is there anything you'd like to share with the members before they take this into committee for decision making?
Madam Chair, no. I believe it's pretty straightforward. We would classify this as a facade upgrade. So it's effectively the 3 variance items that we do have are existing non-conforming. And what we've done is effectively some exterior material changes. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, if there's no other questions, can I get a motion? Member Bartolo.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. And this is a pretty straightforward application to an existing residence. I'm going to put forward a motion to approve this application with no conditions.
Okay, motion from Member Bartolo to approve this application without conditions. Can I get someone to second it? Member Attarodi seconds. All those in favor? I see Member Kidd's screen is frozen, but we do have quorum, so everyone has, except Member Kidd, who is not on camera, everyone has approved. So your application has been approved without condition. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Let's move on to item number 2, which is, 19, which is number 14 Manitou Boulevard. 14 Manitou Boulevard is it's 2 variances, 6 letters of support. We've got a Clara Walker. Clara Walker, are you there?
Madam Chair, I just received an email from Clara Walker confirming that Sean Galbraith will be speaking on behalf of her.
Sean Galvarez?
Galbraith.
Galvary. Okay, Mr. Galvary, are you there?
Galbraith, I'm a planner here on behalf of the application.
Great. If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Sean Galbraith, 18 King Street East, Suite 1400, Toronto.
Okay, and I'll just ask members, there's no one else to speak to this application, and there's 6 letters of support. There's no staff report. Do we require a presentation at this time? There being none, Mr. Galbraith, do you have anything that you'd like to share with the committee members before they go into committee for decision making?
No, I think this is a pretty straightforward, simple application.
Okay, thank you so much. Members,
You're welcome.
Can I get a motion, please? Member Bartolo.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. I agree, this is a pretty straightforward and minor application. I don't see any issues with the platform being proposed or the FSI. I'll put forward an application to put forward a motion to approve this application.
Okay, motion from Member Bartolo. Thank you for that. Seconded by Member Attarodi. All those in favor? Everyone approves. Member Kidd is not yet on camera, so but we have quorum. All members approve without condition. Thank you so much, Mr. Galbraith. Okay, if we can move on then now to item number 20. Number 20 is number 47 Southwell Drive. This application has two variances, but we do have a couple of members here. One other area resident, there is the homeowner as well here who is registered, but he's not speaking. Can I get, is this the same agent, Sean Galbraith, on here? Yeah, okay, Mr. Galbraith, are you back with us again?
Madam Chair, it seems we've just lost Sean Galbraith. I'm gonna see if we can get him to rejoin.
Okay, so he is slotted in for number 20 as well, right?
Yep.
Just to confirm. All right, so let's move on then. While we're getting Mr. Galbraith back, he probably got very excited about the last application. So let's move on to item number 21, members, and that is 633 Broadway Avenue. There's only the agent here to speak to this application. Item number 21 only has two variances. Mr. West, Simon West, are you there?
Members of the board, my name is Simon West. I'm the agent.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
If you could state your address, please, for our records.
My address is 3308 Lakeshore Boulevard West, Unit 4, Toronto.
Okay, great. There's no one to speak to this application. Members, two variances noted. Do you need a presentation on this application? Okay, there being none, Mr. West, do you have anything you'd like to share about the application before they take it into committee for decision making?
Yes, I would like to add that the addition, the side yard addition that we're doing, which is within the area of the existing non-conforming parking space. This happens with 6 houses down the road, so the look at the front of the street does not change. We're still going to be having a parking space, but it's going to be moved forward, very similar to what all the other houses in the neighborhood have. So I'm hoping that you're going to allow me to do this.
Okay, members, you've heard a little bit of an explanation from the agent here today. If there's no other questions, do you have a motion? Member Kidd.
Madam Chair, given the support of the transportation staff, I think there's these requested variances are minor in nature. I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application subject to the transportation conditions set out in the Transportation Services Report dated April 4, 2023.
Okay, we've got a motion from Member Kidd. Thank you, to approve this application as is. Do I have a seconder? Member Attarodi seconds this. All those in favor? Okay, Mr. West, your application has been unanimously approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, shall we go back to Mr. Galbraith? He's not there again. Okay, so then let's move on to the next application. Members, let's turn to application number 22, which is 41 Lynnhaven Road. And 41 Lynnhaven Road, it's 3 variances. We do have forestry conditions, and there are 8 letters of support. Members, there's only one person here to speak to this item, and that is an Osrin Stambrook. Osrin Stambrook, are you there?
Yes,
Mr.
I'm
Stambrook?
here. Yes, I'm here. Hi.
Yes, if you could state your name and address for our records, please.
Absolutely. My name is Ozren Stambuk. I'm at 15 Moreland Road.
Okay, great. Members, we've got no real staff report except for forestry. Do you need a presentation for this application? Okay, there being none, then Mr.
I'm sorry,
Sure, go ahead.
Madam. I appreciate the presentation.
Sure. Mr. Stanbrook,
you.
if you can provide a brief presentation for the members on the merits of your application, that will be helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I will. I wasn't prepared for a presentation because I thought it was so straightforward.
Yeah, just
But
all you
that's
have to
okay.
do is just tell us what you think,
No,
the application's about, and we're
it's okay.
okay.
Yeah, I'll improvise. It's no problem because I mean, I'm not sure if you're aware, but this application was actually rejected, refused, in a different iteration when it came in February before a different chair and committee. And at that time, we had a lot of, we had the same letters of support. Actually, those letters of support are for the previous application, and now this one has been reduced quite a bit. Before we were proposing for a third story, and we were also asking for 2 secondary units because there was some confusion whether that was allowed to be a variance or not. But in any case, all of that has been removed, and this application has been scaled down a lot. And now we're just asking for the variances in front of you. And I would say that the most significant variances are the length and depth. But there I have tried to provide quite a lot of supporting documentation from the area of previously approved cases with similar, and also I provided this building length diagram showing that we have made the design have a staggered effect so that depth also includes a one-story portion which is resulting in that variance. So basically it's something that fits in the area. It's something it's variances that are similar to ones that have been approved before. In some cases more, in some cases less. Depth has been approved and length. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. It's a kind of a severely pared down, reduced version of what we were originally proposing, and we don't have this time. We have no opposition from any neighbors, and to tell you really frankly, I have absolutely no idea why the original application was refused. But of course, this is not the time and place for previous applications, so I won't speak to that. So that's where we're at right now, and that's why I kind of wasn't prepared for a presentation because this one seems so straightforward to me. But I'm really happy to answer any questions. In fact, that would be the best way for me to explain the project because I'm not sure in which way it's unique or how I can even attempt to explain some special circumstances of this project that hasn't been built in this neighborhood hundreds of times.
Okay, that's understood, and you did really well. That was really good. And let me turn it over to the members right now if they have any questions for you. It looks like there's no other questions. So with that, members, can I get a motion on this application, please? Member Attarodi.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application as is and only subjected to urban forestry.
Okay,
conditions.
Motion from Member Attarodi to approve this application with forestry conditions, seconded by Member Bartolo. And all those in favor? Just waiting on Member Manning to see if her camera might be slow.
Frozen,
Yes.
frozen.
It's frozen, but you're approving, right? Did that say yes? Yes, she's put up her hand. Okay,
Yes.
we're getting freezing of the voice as well. So I may ask you to log in and log out again, but we've got you on file here. Your application, sir, has been unanimously approved with those conditions. So you did an awesome presentation, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very
Okay.
much. You too.
Thank you. All right, so now let's try to take it back again, members, to that one item number 20. This is 47 Southwell Drive. We're going to try another person. This would be the owner, George Eunice. Is there a George Eunice on the line?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
George Eunice, 47 Southwell Drive, North York.
Okay. I understand that Sean Galbraith is not there, but are you prepared to speak to the application? I know it said that you weren't willing to speak, but we do have one person, a couple other folks here that want to talk to it that are area residents. Is that something you would like to do?
Sure, I would like to know their concerns. Yes, please.
Well, if you're able to give maybe a brief presentation, just nothing big, but give us an understanding of what the application is about so that the members, the area residents can hear it, as well as the members. That way you're able to tell us anything you'd like to. Please go ahead.
Sure, we basically bought this property to build a house for my kids and my wife. Normally now we live up in Newmarket and we'd like to move down to the city as it is more convenient for my work. So we like the area, we like the street, and a lot of new houses are on the street as well. So it's a good opportunity for my family and I to move down and be down in the city.
Okay.
And that's the reason why we bought the house and applying for renovation, or I should say a new build.
Okay, and in the proposal, you're asking for a 29% lot area, as well as a bit of an increase in the building height. So there's just two variances that are noted. Let me see if the members have any questions of you at this moment. Members, do you have any questions of the agent? Or the owner, actually? Yes, Member
No.
Antarodi, please go ahead.
No, not a question, but they asked for 29.75% versus 5% lot coverage. That was just...
Okay, so Member Atarodi, we're hearing her voice coming in and out, but what I gather is that she would like to know, Mr. Eunice, you do have an increase in the lot coverage from 25% to almost 30%. Can you explain that? What is that contributing to? Why is it needed?
Just for I have 3 kids and each kid has its own bedroom. So just basically to get good sizes enough. The house that we live in right now is pretty much the same size as this, and we were hoping to get somewhat the same bedroom sizes.
Okay, so it's just an extra floor
And
space.
maybe that would, yeah, correct. That maybe led to 4.76% extra.
Okay, all right. Any other questions, members? Okay, so then with that, let's move on to the first area resident, and let's hear what they have to say, Mr. Eunice. So the first person we've got on file is Steve McQuaid. Mr. McQuaid, are you there? Mr. Steve McQuaid?
Yes.
Yes, if you could state your name and address for the record. Mr. McQuaid, if you're there, we can't hear you.
Yeah, it's 45 Southwell Drive.
Maybe the members on screen can hear you, but in our council chambers, we're having a hard time hearing you. If you could repeat.
My name is Steve McQuaid, 45 Southwell Drive.
That sounds way better. So keep shouting into the mic. Share with us what your thoughts are on this application, sir.
Well, obviously, being a house to the east, I'm concerned about the, traditionally roof lines, the heights were down the middle of the buildings. Now, with the flat roof construction, these height restrictions are moved out to the edge of the building, and that's going to affect a lot of the sunlight that comes into my backyard. So the height is of concern. I've checked out the plans. It looks like a beautiful house. If you got 10 and 11-foot ceilings in the basement, that's nice. But the other thing was the lot size. There are some other homes in the area that same size, but they are located on little larger lots. So that's a concern as well. It would be nice if the home could be pushed forward to the road a bit, which would probably late afternoon sun allow my backyard to get a little more of it.
Okay, is there any other thoughts or concerns that you'd like to raise?
I guess the one, my house was built in the mid-50s, as well as the existing house, and the excavation, how close to the property line that might end up being, because I've seen several issues through my work where, you've had collapses, etc., and it is quite a deep hole.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that a lot of, in order for this to be done safely, we do have inspectors that would come down and look at that. So I don't think that you'd have a lot to worry about there. But we'll hear from the owner as we get back to him to share his concern, to help you with your concerns. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. McQuaid? Okay, there being none. Thank you, Mr. McQuaid. Let's move on to the next speaker, and that's a Clarence Sow. Clarence Sow. If you can state your name and address for our records, please.
My name is Clarence Cho, and my address is 49 Southwell Drive, so I'm on the other side.
Okay, Mr. Cho, thank you so much for that. If you could share with us your thoughts on this application.
Yeah, I just had two sort of like questions, I guess. The first is just one similar to sort of the other owner talking about sunlight. I just had a concern about whether I have a deck in my backyard that's sort of like on, and you can sort of see that extra rectangle sort of like going out. And obviously, like during the summer, we spend a lot of time there, and so I'm not exactly sort of sure how, like the sunlight would affect things, but I was just curious if that like jutting out at the back there, because that's where it goes a lot more further back compared to where it is now, and with also the increased height of the house, whether it would cast like a particularly significant shade on that deck area. So that was number one. And then number two is maybe less of a concern and more just an interest to kind of figure out what to do about like our shared area where the hedges are. Because today there's a bunch of hedges and a lot of trees on the fence in between. And right now there's a wooden deck. And I wasn't able to remove those trees because of that, how that deck pretty much like goes right up to our property line. So if that's being changed, I'm just curious, like what, maybe there's an opportunity to kind of like plan for that shared part more properly now. So maybe more an opportunity than a concern, the second part.
Okay, and those are some of those things you may want to work out because the owner is on the line and you may want to strike up a personal agreement with him. About what you could do with that shared space. But let's see if committee members, do you have any other questions of Mr. Cho? Okay, there being none, let's bring the owner back out. Mr. Yunus, are you there again? Yeah, so you
Yes,
must
Madam
have
Chair.
heard
I'm here.
you must have heard what the other two area residents have said. They've talked a little bit about concerns about the property being the property line, how much of the depth of that is going to take place, a little bit of sunlight issues that they're concerned about, as well as the encroachment of the deck, the height of your proposal, and then that shared space with the hedges, that there might be an opportunity to do something jointly with your neighbor towards that side. Can you share your, I know you're the owner and your agent is not here, but maybe if you can talk a little bit to those, that would be helpful.
Absolutely. Mr. McQuaid and Mr. Cho, thank you very much for attending. Mr. Cho, absolutely, we haven't introduced ourselves yet, so maybe we'll drop by and take a look at your concern through the hedges, and we try to trim them and make sure that they're adequate to your sunlight and your backyard. I'm more than willing. Just if I may, just his address, Mr. Cho's address, please.
Yeah, I don't have it noted here, but it's number 49.
I'm sure.
Southwell.
I think we share.
Yeah, it's number 49. He's at number 49.
49, yeah. So we could sit down and talk about it and see what your concern. I'm sure there's nothing that couldn't be handled and fixed. As for Mr. McQuaid, yes, I think the new houses are quite substantial, and the hole in the ground is quite substantial as well. But I'm sure we will look after it properly, and all the inspectors will be on site on regular basis for inspection. And the basement is only 9 foot 5 inches, so it's not even close to 10, 11 feet. As the concern for the sun, I'm more than happy to sit down with you, have a coffee, and discuss and see what other concerns you have, so we could attend to them. We're going to be neighbors for a long time, so I want to make sure I start on the right foot.
Oh, that's very nice. And Mr. McQuaid is at number 45. So that, 45 and 49, I'm sure that they would be open to coffee with you. So with that, members, do we have any questions left for the owner, Mr. Yunus? Okay, if there being none, let's take this into committee. Can I get a motion, please? Motion from Member Atarodi.
Through you, Madam Chair, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application as is.
Okay, motion from Member Atarodi to approve this application as is, seconded by Member Kidd. Seconds it. All those in favor? Okay, unanimously approved by the 3 members on screen. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Yunus. Your application has been approved.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yep, you did a good job. Don't forget to meet with the neighbors. All right, members, let's move on to item number 24. And this is going to be a big one. We do have number 23 was deferred. And so this is number 149 Glenvale Boulevard. So Glenvale Boulevard, let me just get this. Sorry, my computer is also, everything is a little slow today. And this is an application to construct a new family detached dwelling. And we've got about 6 individuals to speak to this application. It is 4 variances. There are 10 letters of objection. And the agent noted on the file is a Christina Tarenti. Christina Tarenti, are you there?
Hello?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
hello. If you could state your name and address for our records, please.
Yes, Christina Tarenti of 188 Alfred Avenue.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, if you could provide us with a presentation on your application, and then we'll get to the other folks that are waiting to speak on it.
Of course. So, hi everyone. As noted, my name is Christina Trenti. I am the designer and the authorized agent. Proposed new house, 149 Glenvale Boulevard. Alexander Canem is the owner of the property. He is also my fiance, and we're planning this house for our future family. Before starting on the design of the house, I did a precedent analysis to make sure that all of the variances are quite common to our street and especially our immediate neighbors. We have the 3 variances, and I will go through them one by one in the following presentation. So the first variance has to do with the floor space index. The permitted number is 0.6 times the area of the lot. And what we're proposing is 0.67 times the area of the lot. Now, this number is quite common in the neighborhood and on our street. If I could please get the site plan shown, if you don't mind, on the screen. On the site plan, you will see you will see the context and the proposed house in comparison to our neighbors. Yeah, just the next page. Next. Yeah, perfect. So if you zoom out a little bit, just for context, we're here in gray. The building above on the top of the page is an older house built in 1940s. And in the bottom of the page is a new house, which is one of said precedents, 151 Glenvale. As you can see, our footprint and the length of the house is even shorter than our neighboring new house. So just to speak a little bit on the reasoning behind this FSI that we're asking, we just need some extra area because we're planning to have multiple children in the future, and we also have a lot of visiting relatives that could stay with us. In addition, another big reason, I work from home full time and I need extra space for that. And of course, the immediate neighbors, as I mentioned. The next variance has to do with the side yard affecting the width of the house. It's very minor, but it made a big difference for us. Mainly, instead of 0.9 meters permitted as a setback on each side, we're proposing 0.81 meters. So we're basically asking for extra 9 centimeters of width on each side of the house, giving us 18 centimeters in total. This seems like a small number, but it made a big difference for us. On the second floor, this extra width, we were able to squeeze in an extra bedroom on the second floor, aside from hallway and staircase. Yeah, and the final variance in terms of height, the maximum 0.5 meters, and we are proposing 8.9 meters, which is again in line with many other houses on the street. This concludes my short presentation. Thank you for your attention, and I hope you consider our application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Let's then ask members, do you have any questions of Ms. Tarenti? There being none, let's then move on to the first speaker. We do have 2, 4, 6, 7 speakers. We've got an Eva Huang. Eva Huang.
Oh, hi, here I am.
Hello, can you state your name and address for our records, please?
Yeah, so my name is Eva, last name is Huang, address is 195 Glenvale Boulevard.
Yes, please, go ahead with your thoughts on this application.
I joined the hearing, just want to say the general process for sale a hearing on our street. I think you're pulling it out too quickly. So I don't know how it works, so I joined to say how it goes first, and then yeah. So the purpose I joined this hearing is just want to say how it goes on our street.
Okay, so you're just here to listen in and see how things are.
Yeah.
All right.
I think just listening for now. If I have any opinions, I'll let you guys know.
All right. Thank you so much. Members, do you have any questions
Thank you.
Ms. Huang? Okay, there being none?
No, not at this.
Yeah.
No, not at this moment. I'll just
Yeah, that was just for the members, but thank you very much. And let's move on to the next speaker. We've got Lauren Campbell.
Oh, hi, thanks. So it's Lauren Campbell. I'm at 521 Sutherland Drive.
All right, great. Ms. Campbell, if you could share your thoughts as well, that would be helpful.
Of course, yeah. So I guess my primary concern is about potential flooding in adjacent properties, including my own, where my back fence will partially align with that home. So I've seen on our street, we've had a few neighbors on Glenbrae who have built pools and have altered the kind of obviously the depth into the yard as well as the leveling of the lot. And it has caused pooling of water in other properties with the changes in grading, et cetera. So my concern, I guess, is with even though there have been other instances of changes, and I'm actually, sorry, my daughter just touched the phone. You know, it's hard to know if this is happening in other streets, but my concern is that I will have flooding in my backyard as well, or water coagulation or pooling, due to them going over their allotted space per the city. And then my other concern obviously is privacy with the increased size, again, over the allotted amount that they're applying for. I mean, I guess I could hear if they're planning on doing privacy trees in their backyard, but again, the idea of someone, you know, having direct access into viewing into my yard as they're bumping out the property and going higher, kids play is just a bit concerning. Those are my main concerns.
All right, thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions of Ms. Campbell? Okay, there being none, let's move on to the next speaker, Ms. Wendy Bacon. Ms. Bacon, are you there? Yes, if you could state your name and address for our records, please.
Yes, my name is Wendy Bacon. I live at 152 Glenvale Boulevard, and I'm speaking today on behalf of myself and my spouse, Alan.
Okay, and if you can share your thoughts on this application, trying not to repeat what was already said.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'll try to keep to the facts as I know them, specific to the application made. First fact is the neighbors were not consulted. Second fact is these are not minor variances. There are 4 variances requested. This is a standard leaside lot on which there are no natural constraints which would require variances to construct a very comfortable family home. The second fact, as I understand it, is that the height of the house is 0.4 meters or almost 16 inches above the allowable limit. Existing limitations in the area are already generous, and the additional height will likely negatively impact the amount of light and the privacy available to the adjacent lots. To the best of my knowledge, there are no houses on the block that exceed the height limitation. The proposed building is not within the norm of the neighborhood, which negatively impacts the look and feel and aesthetic of the neighborhood. The walkout basement in the proposed building, which seemingly necessitates the height variance, seems to make this house a 3-story building rather than the 2 stories permitted in Leaside. Next fact, the proposed building will comprise 67% of the site versus the allowable 60%. This will most likely affect drainage, light, and privacy, which will negatively impact on the adjacent homes. In summary, the proposed building is too large for the site and outside the norms of the neighborhood. I want to register the fact that I'm against these requested variances.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, do we have any questions for Ms. Bacon? Okay, there being none, let's move on to the next speaker, Leticia Batista. Leticia Batista or Leticia Batista?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, if you could state your name and address for a record, please.
Yes, my name is Leticia Batista. Address is 150 Glenvale Boulevard.
Thank you.
It is right across from the building.
Great, and let's hear your thoughts on this application.
Yes, I heard before that the 150 Glenvale was mentioned. That is my house, and I built it a few years ago. And just to say that the renovation was under the limit, that it was 0.60, the floor space index. And I can have like 4 bathrooms, 4 bedrooms, and a family room. Like it's a very large home, and my family grew here. So I have 2 children. So I don't see why it has to go so high. The height of the building that they are planning is not really in keeping with the neighborhood. And most properties that I know and next to me, they are also 0.60 in the floor space index. So I don't know why it has to be so massive, especially if they are next to a bungalow and semi-detached bungalows as well. They're never going to grow up. So it's going to be impacting our way of life, definitely. So I think that, not to repeat what my neighbor Wendy was saying, that I think that the variances requested are not minor. The variances are not desirable for the appropriate development and use of land, and the footprint is massive. The variances does not maintain the general intent and purpose of the city's zoning codes and bylaws, and the variances is not in keeping with the general intent and purpose of the official plan, and it fails to conform with the physical character of the neighborhood. And also, as Wendy was saying, we were never consulted. As far as I know, none of the neighbors were consulted. I don't know why they keep this away from everyone to know. Maybe because of the massive size of the building? I don't know. But, those are my comments. And I completely oppose to these variances to be accepted.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Batista. Members, do you have any questions of this neighbor? Okay, there being none, let's move on to the next neighbor, and that's a Penelope Easton. Penelope Easton, are you there?
Hello?
Yes, if you could state your name and address for our records, please.
Hi, Penelope Easton, and I'm at 147 Glenvale Boulevard, so I'm the neighbor directly to the west of the proposed building. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, the committee members, for actively listening to why I have objections to the variances being proposed. A lot of what I had prepared has already actually been stated by Wendy and by Leticia as well. With regards to the variances being minor, I don't believe that they are minor. And specifically, I want to speak to the variance to the side setback on the west side of the home. We are the bungalow directly beside. Our driveway is on the east side of our house. And if they were to make that any smaller, we would have serious issues getting our cars parked down the driveway. So I'm very opposed to that variance. That will impact our driveway. It'll impact our right of way. We'll get the car. We won't be able to get out of the car. We won't be able to open the doors to the car. So that's a variance I oppose. For the same, I oppose the height being next door to them. Based on the plans that I was looking at, there's a rather large deck. It's a 2-tiered deck that will be put on the back of the home. That is going to impact our privacy with the home height. going from, and I don't know, my understanding of flat roof is only supposed to be 7.5 meters, where they're asking for 8.9, which is a huge, you know, it's a big jump. It's going to directly have an impact, the house, on the east side of our home. It's going to cause a significant reduction in the amount of light, and which is going to impact our kitchen, our dining room, the bedrooms upstairs. We're also concerned about the elevated roof height, excess water, snow, leaves, and debris coming off the roof. Also concerned about the lack of sunlight and the snow buildup, and a slower snow melt on that side of the house. And again, you know, I don't want to go over what the other said, but the house going from 60 to 67% is a 11.6% increase. And there are other homes on the street that are within the limitations and have the number of bedrooms required. So I'm not sure why they want to go to such a maximum, you know, size, like go well over the size variance. So I just, you know, because a lot of what I had planned actually is it's already been stated. So I just, you know, being the house directly to the west of them is going to have a significant impact on our lifestyle. You know, from a privacy, from lighting, from, you know, the amount of space that we have in our driveway. So I just want to say that I also don't approve of this. And in conjunction with the 9 letters, you know, I appreciate your time and consideration of the comments and concerns, and request that the application for variances be denied.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, do you have a question, any questions of Ms. Easton? Okay, there being none, let's move on to the next neighbor, and that's a Leslie McIntosh and Michael Zivot. Leslie McIntosh or Michael Zivot?
Yes, it's Michael.
Yes, if you could state your name
hear me?
and address for our records, please.
Sure, of course. It's Michael Zivot, 156 Glenvale Boulevard. So we're across the street and about 4 houses to the east of the application.
Please let's know your thoughts on this application.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. I'm sorry, I'm outside.
No, you hear me loud and clear.
Yeah, I got a loud voice. Our thoughts are this, and it's been reinforced since we heard I think it's Christine go over why she needs this. Just because some other places did get these variances doesn't make more variances right. And I totally agree with Letitia, who says, you know, I raised a family, we have the space. I don't understand. It's not, you know, when she says it's a minor variance, these are not minor variances. And when you look at it from a neighbor's point of view, if you were taking away the ability of someone to effectively use their driveway, that's a big deal. Potential drainage, big deal. Ice falling and blocking of light, that's a big deal. And the reasons I heard for asking these variances don't really wash, right? Like we need more bedrooms for the kids. Well, make your bedrooms a little smaller, right? No offense, I don't know these people will be neighbors at some stage, but you know, lots of us work at home. Right? We all know we have to use space differently, share space, and figure things out as a family. So I don't think my thoughts are simply this. Lots of other people stated those facts, but when Leslie and I talked about this, we look and say, this doesn't make any sense. And this just got reinforced to me when I listened to the application. These aren't good reasons for a variance at all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Zivot? Okay, there being none, let's then move on to Jeff Cattell. Mr. Cattell, are you there? Mr. Cattell, we can't hear you. If it's sounding broken up again, if there's any way that you could log out and log back in, or you know, alternately we can call you. We will be calling you. So members, just stand by for a minute.
Okay, Jeff, you're good to go.
Okay, Mr.
Okay,
Cattell is
thank
online.
you, committee. I apologize. I'm not sure why there was a problem there, but we'll go this way, I guess. My name is Jeff Cattell. I'm with the Leaside Residents Association. Our address is 1601 Bayview Avenue. The application 149 Glenvale Boulevard is proposing to construct a new 3-story house to replace a bungalow. The association supports the neighbors and local residents in being opposed to this application for 2 or 3 major reasons. The first one is that there seem to be missing variances. The height limitation for a flat roof, 7.2 meters, and secondly, the house is 3 stories, whereas 2 stories are allowed. Secondly, the proposal fails to satisfy the 4 tests for minor variance as required by the Committee of Adjustment. The question is it minor? This application is requesting approval for 4 variances on a standard Leaside lot, actually more than standard. These are larger lots in North Leaside. There are no site constraints which necessitate the variances to construct a very comfortable sized house as suggested by neighbors. So it's not minor. Secondly, is it desirable for the appropriate development or use of the land? The footprint and massing of this proposal is too big for the site. Variances are proposed for both side yard setbacks and density floor space index. It's not desirable. The general intent and purpose of the city's zoning codes or bylaws are maintained. You can see that in the case of the density, you're looking at an 11% increase in density compared with the bylaws. 8.5 height of 8.5 meters and 2 stories. No, it's 8.9 meters and 3 stories. And then the side yard setbacks. Test number 4, maintaining the intent and purpose of the official plan, which states in Chapter 4, Section 4.5, that no changes shall be made to rezoning, minor variance, or other public action that is not in keeping with the physical character of the neighborhood. We believe it's not in keeping. This proposal does not fit with the character of homes in the immediate area, which, whether 1 story or 2 stories, have gables and other design features to soften the house's impact. This proposal fails to conform to the Leaside neighborhood design guidelines. In closing, the size of the proposed dwelling is too big and has negative implications for the neighborhood. It's not in keeping with the intent of the bylaws or the official plan. It does not meet the test for approval of minor variances. And we also note the lack of appreciation or of interest in the applicant in consulting with the neighbors. When you move into an area, you should appreciate the character of that area, and you should find yourself in that area by talking to people and understanding that area. And that does not seem to have happened in this case. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Cattell. Members, do you have any questions for him? There being none, let's get the agent or the owner back on, Christina Tarenti. Ms. Tarenti, are you there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming forward. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm ready
Go
to
ahead. You
address
have
the
5
comments, for
minutes
sure.
to, share a rebuttal to all that you've heard.
Yeah, sure. So these plans have been shared, and the vision for the house has been shared in February we had a street hangout at Wendy Bacon's house, and I have shown the proposal to the neighbors, and we discussed a little bit the aesthetic preferences and how it will fit into the neighborhood. So I just wanted to address the notion of the neighbors not being aware. We have talked to the neighbors around us, have given out our phone number. So a lot of the neighbors have been given all of the information to address the concerns. Now I'm just going to go straight into addressing the legitimate concerns. I think there has been a misunderstanding thinking that coverage and the floor space index is the same thing. So I just wanted to highlight that the 0.6 is not 60% coverage. That's the floor space index. In terms of the footprint of the house, the coverage, we are in fact a little bit below what's allowed by zoning. Zoning allows us to cover 35% of the site. We cover a little bit under that. You can see it's not even a variance. So the house covers what's permitted by zoning. In addition, another thing, so the roof is not flat at all. It is only flat in the center. If you look at the elevation or a section in the application, it is absolutely not a flat roof. So the height of 8.5 is permitted by zoning. And that extra 40 centimeters that we're asking is indeed quite common on the street and around the neighborhood. You see, it's just the flat in the middle. Yeah. And in the back elevation, if you don't mind, it's even less. See how it slopes gradually down. Now, it is absolutely 2 stories as per, elaborated in Toronto zoning. So again, yes, what else? Sorry, I'm just looking at all of my comments that's been mentioned. Oh yes, the side yard. Penelope, I know we pushed the side of our house only by 9 centimeters. It's very, very minor, which we are completely okay with not pushing the wall 9 centimeters toward your property, sorry, no problem. So in terms of us being next to bungalows, yes, one of the bungalows, it's a 1.5 story. It's not quite a bungalow. It is also has been built in 1940s, just like our house. Respectfully, I don't think it will remain a bungalow. Every new building in the neighborhood, none of them are bungalows. It's always up to 2 stories, right? And our other immediate neighbor has the same height of 8.5 meters. I in fact have a list of other buildings on the street where this height has been permitted. It is exceptionally common in Leaside. And again, it's only 40 centimeters more than permitted, right? So the variance is in fact minor. All of these variances are quite minor. In terms of the privacy, so what was addressed by Lauren, I believe, Campbell in the beginning, we do have a tree on the angle of the property, which will look into yours. I don't know if you can tell by the site plan. So there will be a tree, and we have plans to plant a lot more in the backyard. So the neighbors will have plenty of privacy. What else? Oh, in terms of flooding, there will be no pool. We're not changing grade much at all. It's quite a flat site. So no neighbors should have the flooding concerns. We will, of course, have inspectors on site. Everything will be constructed accordingly. So flooding will not be a concern. Again, no pool, none of that. What else? In terms of the physical character of the house, so this is something I have discussed with the neighbors. It will certainly be a contemporary, modern-looking house, but I made sure to include some traditional elements, such as the slope of the roof. It will be made in stone, and the top window dormer which will hint at a more traditional shape of houses that is common to the Leaside neighborhood.
I'll ask you to summarize, please.
Yep, I think I've addressed everything at this point briefly, just to highlight again that we are under the permitted site coverage. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Members, do you have any questions of Ms. Tarenti? Okay. Ms. Member Attarodi, go ahead.
Yes, to you, Madam Chair. I just want to get clarification when the presenter present and talk about that 9 centimeter, which is 3.5 inch, a relief they request for the side yard setback that they also can remove. Sorry, I just want to get a clarification. Are they Is she trying to remove that? I think we have only a concern about west side yard setback. Or it was just a comment.
Yeah, we're.
Hi, yeah, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just highlighting to Penelope that this will only be a 9 centimeter encroachment towards her, which is still on our property, and it should not significantly affect anything at all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Okay, there being none, I think you've heard from quite a number of the neighbors in the area. They're likely the ones who wrote around the 10 letters of objection. Seems to be 4 variances, no other staff reports noted. Can I get a motion on this application?
Okay.
Member Attarodi.
Yes, to you, Madam Chair. I carefully listened to applicant, to all the neighbors, and also reading the notice. We have no staff report. We have no objection for transportation and no urban forestry condition. We're dealing with 4 variants, and I believe that these 4 variants are minor in nature. Therefore, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with no condition.
Okay, Member Attarodi with a motion to approve this application without condition, seconded by Member Manning. All those in favor? Right, this application has been unanimously approved. Thank you, Ms. Tarenti. Members, let's turn our attention to item number 25, and this is 1100 Shepherd Avenue West. There is 1 variance. This application, as you note, had an objection from transportation, but Transport Services did reach back out to city staff and rescinded their concerns. So there is no objection anymore from Transport. There's no one else to speak to this item except for the agent. There's a Dan Oliveira. Mr. Oliveira, are you there?
Madam Chair, Dan Oliveira has been unmuted.
Mr. Oliveira, if we can hear your voice. We're not hearing you. So perhaps maybe what we could do is we can come back to this application. We'll have staff try to reach out to you. In the meantime, let's move on to item number 26, members. And item number 26 is number 15, Restwell Crescent. Please note that there is one other person here to speak to this application. And we've got 3 variances, and there is a late staff report that city staff will put up when the time comes. But let's try to see if we get Parisa Amiri on the line. Miss Amiri, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, this is Parisa Amiri. I'm the architect and the agent on this application, and my address is 50 Woodville Avenue, Toronto, M4K2J6.
All right, and if you can provide us with a brief presentation of this application, we will be putting up the staff report, shortly.
Yes.
If there's any concerns.
I have sent a design rationale for the justification of the variances that we are requesting. If we can have that one on the screen, that's appreciated. Yes, we are requesting for 3 variances. First is lot coverage, and the request for the lot coverage doesn't affect any setback issue. And so it's quite similar to the other approved lot coverages in the neighborhood, and we are under 32% of the lot coverage, and it's the 31.80% that we are requesting. This is the first variance, and the second variance that we are requesting is the height variance. And the height variance, as you can see on the design rationale that I mentioned, the area that we are requesting, it's only the front of the building, and that triangle area that goes up, because most of the, if you go to the next page, please. Most of the house is flat roof, and it's under the 8 meter as the city staff reported, and only that area which I highlighted, it's slope roof, and the slope roof is a gable roof, and therefore back and front goes up under the roof and cause the main wall height variance to 9.92 meter. So it's not all the house under that height. The house, as you can see, please go back to the previous page. As you can see, it's only at this corner, which is northwest corner of the property, which is in the front of the property, and even it doesn't bother any neighbor toward the west or south or sides, because it's in the front, and at the sides we have a slope. And the third variance that we are requesting is very technical variance. Would you please move forward down to the second page? Yes. This highlighted area on the for the third variance, these are the corner that caused the third variance, and this has been sent, this highlighted has been sent to me by the zoning examiner, and she mentioned we are allowed to have the overhang on the side and the front, but they haven't they shouldn't meet each other. At these two corners, this caused this variance to be created. So this is very technical, and she said the way that the bylaw looks at the architectural feature, it's not like what we have on the main elevation, and these corners had to be like it doesn't read in the bylaw. Although we are seeing the projection to from the side, but it shouldn't continue toward the front yard. This is the nature for the third variance. And I think this is very, to me, it's very straightforward, and definitely the variances are minor, especially for the height, which is only at the corner that's limited for the gable roof to the highest point the examiner calculated. And I'm happy to answer if there is any question.
All right, thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions at all for Ms. Amiri? Okay, there being none, then let's move on to the next speaker on the list, and that's either Mehdi or Courtney Doagu. Mehdi or Courtney, are you there?
Hi there, this is Mehdi Jordan.
Okay, yes. If you could state your name and your address, please, for our records.
Yeah, good afternoon, Ms. Chair and panelists. My name is Mehdi Jordan. I live at 6 Earlingwood Court, North York, Ontario, N2K108.
All right, and if you could make sure you take yourself off speakerphone so that we could hear you clearly, and state your thoughts on this application.
Well, I'm not on speakerphone, this is the computer.
Okay.
I'm just moving it away from myself so it doesn't bounce back.
All right.
Madam Chair and panelists, this neighborhood was built in 1950s And I've been living at my existing property over 25 years now. On Westwood, there is roughly about 36 homes, and 3 of them have been developed. And the larger buildings are on the ravine side, and there is one on the south side. The property in question is on northwest of my property, and we share about 15 feet of fence. The reason for my objection is the changes that doesn't sound to be minor. The coverage increased from 30% to 31.8, including, if we include canopies and other structures they want to set up, is much more than 31.8. The height is to be increased from 7.5 meter to 9.92, which makes it a giant building in our neighborhood, especially considering the size of this lot, which is not big to accommodate such a structure. And also, this is gonna have a very immense impact on our privacy and a visual impact as well. Being attached to each other, we use our backyard all through the summer, spring and fall to some extent. Basically, we live there. We have a swimming pool and a deck, and the family and my grandchildren enjoy that all the time. Having a huge building on that corner, it affects us immensely. And for these reasons, I would like to ask the committee to not to agree with this project. I have submitted a written objection. I hope you have a chance to read it, or you might have read it already. So I guess I finished my objection at this point.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Doju? No? Member Attarodi, yes, go ahead.
No, just want to get their address. Are they located at number 6?
Mr. Dojo?
It is number 6.
Yeah, okay. So number 6.
Thank you.
Okay, let's get the agent back out, Ms. Amiri.
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Amiri, you've heard what the neighbor has had to say, and if you have 5 minutes to rebut.
Yes. Actually, neighbor, if you can have the site plan up, that's appreciated. The neighbor is at the southeast corner. They are located at the back of the property, 6 Earlywood Court. And they are only sharing 15 feet of the fence with this property. And the property itself is 60 feet. And can I have the site plan? If you take a look at the dashed line, which indicate the existing bungalow on this property, you'll notice that the proposed structure shrunk from the sides and the back.
Okay, thank you.
From the sides and the back means the length is not going to be more than what is already there, and it's actually less than what's there. And we had the opportunity to build from the front because of the neighbor's setback. So although he mentioned the lot is not the deep lot, yes, but we didn't encroach into the required setback. Actually, we have more than the requirement for the rear yard setback. And the second, he mentioned about the height. I believe I explained where we have that 9.92 meter variance, which is in the front. And I believe it really doesn't bother them, especially there is no window at the roof objection, which is above the roof level. So for the majority of the house, it's 2-story and very similar to the other houses. And as a staff report mentioned, we really want to build the house based on the design and the elevation that we submitted, and that requested variance for the height is only limited for the front. And I'm happy to answer if there is any question.
All right, thank you for that. And members, as you could see, we've put up the April 3rd staff report that sort of came in. Our team here has put that up for you. Do you have any questions for the agent at this time? Okay, there being none, please note that this is going to be subject to that staff report. And again, it's one variance and, sorry, it is 26. It's 3 variances and no other reports or anything else on file. Can I get a motion on this? Member Kidd, go ahead.
Madam Chair, the one requested variance that was of concern was the proposed main wall height, and I accept the rationale provided by the agent with respect to that. Also, given the support of the planning staff report, I'm going to put forward a motion to accept the application and make it subject to the proposal being constructed substantially in accordance with the front and west side elevation drawings submitted to the Committee of Adjustment on February the 27th and attached as attachment 1 and 2 to the planning staff report dated April the 3rd.
Okay, thank you, Member Kidd, with a motion to approve this application and subject to those conditions. Can I get someone to second that? Seconded by Member Manning. All those in favor? Your application, Ms. Amiri, has been unanimously approved with those conditions.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just going to double check with our application technicians. Do we have item number 25, Mr. Oliveira, back on? All right, let's get him on. Everyone, if you can turn your attention back to item number 25, 1100 Shepherd Avenue West. Okay, and this Shepherd Avenue West, we've got, this is to reduce the visitor parking rate and facilitate the construction of a 14-story residential development that's already under construction. Mr. Oliveira, are you there?
Hi, Madam Chair. Are you able to hear me this time?
Yes, I can hear you now. And if you could state your name and address for the records.
Apologies. Yes, of course. Daniel Oliveira, and the address is 134 Peters Street, Toronto, Suite 200.
Okay, great. Members, this has one variance, and as I stated before, transportation had some concerns, but they did send in a staff email to our team here stating that, you know, they rescind those concerns. There is no other report. There's no one else to speak to this application. Do you require a bit of a presentation? Yep. Okay, so let's hear from you, Mr. Oliveira, just to hear a little bit more about this application. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of committee. So as you mentioned, this application is for a residential condo development at 1100 Shepherd Avenue, just northwest of Shepherd Avenue and Allen Road. We are seeking one minor variance to reduce the visitor parking counts consistent with the current City of Toronto parking requirements as set forth by zoning bylaw 89-2022, which was approved and enacted in February 2022. As you mentioned, City of Toronto staff had a letter that they released on Monday. There was some confusion. They never received our parking justification report. Following review of that report and conversation, they no longer had any objection or issues with our application and are in favor or support it now. Furthermore, I guess there's no other opposition received from anyone in the area, and this development is also adjacent to bus routes, other means of transportation such as the TTC subway, Sheppard West Station specifically, which provides several methods of transportation and additional parking on that lot. So we feel that this application is minor in nature and it meets the intent of the City of Toronto Parking Bylaw 89-2022. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions of the agent? There being none, then can I get a motion on this application? Member Bartolo, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. Given that Transportation Services has no objections and that the regulations have changed since their original proposal would have been submitted, I'll put forward a motion to approve this application.
Okay, motion from Member Bartolo to approve the application, seconded by Member Attarodi. All those in favor? Unanimously approved without condition. Thank you, Mr. Oliveira. And let's, with that,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, let's take a 10-minute break. Is that okay, everyone? See you back in 10 minutes, okay? All right. right, I'd like to call the members back so that we can continue with the applications. Just 8 more to go. And so the next application, and I will call up, is item number 27, and that's 102 Lee Crest Road. This is an application that has 4 variances, and it is a proposal for an ancillary building. We do note that there are 4 variances, a staff report that's asking for modification of variance 1, and there's 5 letters of objection. We do have around 3 different possible neighbors that wish to speak to this application. The agent is Francois Abbott. Mr. Abbott, are you there?
Just like to confirm that I'm audible.
Yes, you are. If you could state your name and address for the record.
So my name is Francois Abbott. I am the architect and authorized agent of the owner, and the address is 213 Sterling Road in Toronto.
Thank you. Because we have so many folks that are still wishing to speak to this application, can you provide us with a brief presentation?
Yeah, I would be glad to. There is a section called COA presentation.
Yes.
Exactly. So I just would like to start here just showing the existing house at Lee Crest. It's a house that's very well known for its landscaping. The owners are avid gardeners, and the house has received a Lee Crest Gardening Award. This is a huge part of their identity. So they also work from home, and their family is growing. They would like to have a sort of ancillary office structure in their garden to be able to enjoy their garden and to have separation from the house for working. Next page, please. So this kind of situates it on the site. You know, the owner already has a lot of vegetation outside of their lot lines on city property. This just kind of situates the building to the north of that ancillary structure. There is a birch tree. There's an arrow pointing to it that they'd like to keep. Slide, please. Next slide. So the rationale for having it where it is because of the connection to the house. So we have a kitchen in the existing, and there's a logical connection to get there. We want to maintain that birch tree that I just mentioned and kind of have an area where people can gather and children can play away from Rolfe Road to have privacy in that little area. Next slide, please. So the variances at play, the main ones, oh yeah, I mean, back a slide. Back. Yeah, variances at play are going to be lot coverage and the setbacks. I believe those are the main ones. So next. Lot coverage, yeah, planning has requested that we reduce lot coverage, which we have done. So from 41.97 to 38.74. They advised us that this would be kind of within the realm of what's acceptable in this neighborhood. It's also noteworthy, I think, that this is a green roof for anyone concerned about vegetation on site to a certain extent. Next slide. The setbacks, if we were to respect that 6-meter setback, we would basically dwarf that room or that space next to the house kitchen that's used as an outdoor kitchen. And we would have to get rid of an existing birch, and that's just not a viable option for these owners. Next slide, please. The owner has already began planting these new birch trees for privacy, and privacy is for themselves, but also it works both ways, also for neighbors. Some of them are outside their boundary lines. Next slide. This is the proposed site as seen from that birch tree I'm talking about. Next slide. On the right-hand side, I've had to actually hide all the birch trees to be able to show the building. The point of this building is that it cannot be seen from outside this fence. It's essentially a planter. It has an ivy canopy that will grow down and over a scaffolding. It's going to be a mature species of ivy that retains foliage in the winter and that is of low maintenance. To the left-hand side, you can see a detail of how it kind of hangs over the building. Next slide, please. Here is a performed study of the most affected neighbor on Wolf Road. You can see that the driveway top left is shaded very, very early in the morning. During the rest of the day, there is no change to solar exposure for that driveway. And the visual connection between existing LEACREST, those bedrooms above, is actually blocked. So there's an increase in privacy. Next slide, please. From left to right, we have a progression in time of what this will look like. So we have current top left. And then at the bottom right-hand side, we have with those birch trees that are currently being planted and with this kind of mature ivy green roof, something that looks a lot like a garden that's already beautiful. And if we have any allotted time, I would like to read a quote from one of the supporters. They might be in attendance. They might want to say it, but I'd be happy to read it. I'm going to take that as a yes. So the plan, this is from Christine nearby, who received a notice. She says the plans clearly show that the plan structure will bring more nature and green space to an urban setting, not less. Also of note is that this property, with its existing landscaping and additional trees, brings more green space and foliage on the street and has improved and raised the standard for the neighborhood in terms of responsible home ownership and betterment of our community. So I would like to terminate on that point. I believe my 5 minutes is up, and that's sort of what I'd like to communicate to you.
Okay, thank you so much. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Abbott? Okay, there being none, then let's move it along to the next speaker, and that's Joe Ryan. Mr. Ryan, are you there? Mr. Joe Ryan?
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. If you can state your name and address for the records, please.
Yes, Joseph Ryan, 10 Glengrove Avenue West. I'm representing and speaking on behalf of Erin and Rob Hughes, who are adjacent neighbours at 1 Rolfe Road.
Okay. Please share your thoughts on this application.
I'm aware of a couple of submissions of support. Just a couple of things to call out before I speak to the variances. Firstly, one of the letters of support is from a Barbara Alexander, 30 Lee Crest. That's 200 metres away from this property. The city sends plans to those within 60-metre radius of the affected property. It's a little peculiar that someone 200 metres away is weighing in, but of course, they're more than within their rights to support this, but hardly an affected neighbour. Additionally, one of the other neighbours in support is 45 metres away at 4 Rolfe Road, across the road as well, not an adjacent neighbour. Just before I speak to the variances, of interest in the plans, and this is unrelated, and I know we're not meant to comment about unrelated matters, but I see that the property's fences actually encroach about 1 metre onto city property. If you look at the plan view on the south side, you can see the lot line, and it appears, I could be wrong, it appears that the garden is encroaching 1 metre into the city property. Let's speak to the variances. Firstly, Mr. and Mrs. Hughes, the adjacent neighbours, are not opposed to a reasonable ancillary structure. We understand the need for density in the neighbourhoods of Toronto. What we would like to see is a little more reasonableness given the mass and size, and especially the setbacks proposed. The two key setbacks that I think are most egregious is the south side setback and specifically the building and the associated eaves. The setback on a side lot is meant to be 6 metres. The proposal here is not for a minor variance. The proposal here is for that setback to be 1.5. That's a movement of 75% from what the city is asking for in the bylaw, which is hardly minor. If we take into account the 900 millimetre eaves on that property, you get down to a setback of just over 600 millimetres. 60 centimetres. That's a far removed setback from the 6 metres required by the city bylaw. A secondary concern is the height of the structure. Yes, it is within the 4 metres allowable, right up to the 4 metre maximum allowable height. But the 4 meters, it is a flat 4-meter structure. Yes, it has a green roof with ivy that may live, may die, but it is a box structure. This is not a hip roof or a gable roof. This is a 4-meter structure that is right within 6 inches of the neighbors of my representative's property line. If the property would consider, sorry, if the person submitting this application would consider more reasonable setbacks and a more reasonable height structure that is maybe peaked or gabled, Mr. and Mrs. Hughes are not against such a reasonable request, but as it currently stands, they're completely opposed to this application. In summary, this is not a minor variation. Yes, it may be applicable and desirable, somewhat appropriate to the neighbourhood, but it is a far cry from meeting the general intent of the city bylaws. The city bylaws clearly wanted side lot setbacks that were considerable, and they stated 6 meters. Hey, half a meter is a minor variance, but 4.5 meters into that 6 meters is not a minor variance. Thank you. I hope you consider this favorably and decline the application.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions for Mr. Ryan? Okay, there being none, let's get the next speaker on, and that's Ms. Katina Sutcliffe. Ms. Katina Sutcliffe.
I'm a neighbor. I live in the neighborhood. I
Sorry,
walk
if
the
you could
neighborhood
state your name and address for our records, please.
My name is Christine Katina Sutcliffe. I live at 109 Southwell Drive. I live 3 doors down from this house.
Okay, and
I watch, yes?
No, sorry, go ahead and share your thoughts, yes.
I just, you know, I walk the neighborhood every single day. I look at all the different variances in this particular pocket of South Leaside that are granted. I see these major homes of these Bigfoot homes on properties that are horrible. And then I walk past this house, and what I would say to all of you who are making a decision, I know you make decisions based on paper and based on the numbers and based on the specific rules. I sincerely believe that if you were to take 10 minutes out and drive by and actually look at this house and look at and imagine and visualize what's being proposed, you'll understand why pretty much the general sense in the neighborhood of the neighbors, other than I guess the people who are, other than what you've been told, is that this is not going to detract or cause any problems to anybody. It's actually going to improve the general sense of the neighborhood, and it's going to be done thoughtfully and responsibly. And I don't usually get involved in things like this. I'm a rule follower by nature, but I don't understand really what the problem is with respect to what they're proposing. Because if you walk by the house and you take a look and you look at the plans, it just does not seem to compute that this is really something that shouldn't seriously be considered and allowed.
Oh, okay. Is there anything else that you would like to share?
Nope, that's really what I wanted to say.
Okay. Members, do you have any questions of Ms. Sutcliffe? All right. Thank you so much. There's no questions. Then let's take it along to Elizabeth Anastasia Champtanis. I hope I got that right.
Hi there.
Hello. If you could state your name and address for our record, please.
It's Elizabeth Anastasia Champtanis, and I'm at 2 Rolfe Road.
Okay. And if you could share your thoughts as well.
Sure. So we live on Rolfe Road, which is across from the property, and I also walk probably a few times a day, and we look right at the property every day. We agree that the gardens are beautiful. It is a very imposing house. However, is very uncharacteristic of the neighborhood. It's all black, it's black fence, and it's the only house that way. And the concern in particular is with the height of the ancillary building and structure, which is, I understand the purpose for which they want, and I think we would all like a space away from the house to work from home, but is that really at the committee the intent? Is the intent of the bylaw not to prevent having another livable space in your backyard and extending your house in a way? So, I mean, I think that beauty is also relative, and I would submit that in the winter when it's covered with snow, I would also have some concern of drifting and blowing snow from the structure onto the road. And it would be very, very imposing. And I would just, again, I respect the reason for wanting, and I think we all share that. However, I would like to stay in line with the intent of what these bylaws are there for, and if they could please work within a more reasonable parameter there. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Members, do you have any questions of Ms. Shamtanis? Okay, there being none, let's take it right back to the agent, Mr. Abbott. You've heard what the neighbors have had to say. You have 5 minutes to rebut.
Yes, thank you. I hear the concerns. Yeah, some of them are new to me. I think a lot of the neighbors have been consulted, and yeah, some of them are kind of unexpected. I just want to clarify a few things. So the eaves we're talking about, if we look at the roof plan next to the plan, they're not actually eaves. It's more of it's like a light scaffolding, and then there's kind of rainwater falls between them as is. And then as far as presence on the road, if we go down to that final slide where we have a render, that final bottom right hand image, that's what we're looking at down the line. And if anyone can keep or mature this ivy on a green roof, it's the owner of this house. She's virtually a botanist. There are photos of the garden included that kind of show this, but even without that, those birches and that setback, it's quite far from the actual road. Like if we're talking about snow blowing onto the road, we can go back up to maybe a site plan. The distance would be enormous, right? So that snow have to blow like through that gap to a fence, which is, you're right that it's beyond, it currently exists beyond the property line as is. So I'm not sure what I would do about that. But I don't think snow would really go there. I don't think it's a problem that the owner cares for trees and vegetation outside of her lot line. I don't know that that's a concern for this application. But I definitely hear the other concerns about maybe form. But the idea is that this is formless and not visible. That's the intention, and that the sun shading is not significant. Pushing it back would cause more shading onto the actual neighbor at One Rolf. And I think that's all I have to say. Like, we would like to keep that birch up there, and we would like to maintain a very low-key profile that fits into this garden. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Abbott? There being none, can we entertain a motion, please?
Madam Chair, just a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Before we make a decision, so did we have any modification to the variances?
Oh, yes.
By
Variance number, yeah, let me just double check. Mr. Abbott, is there any variances that you are intending to modify?
So we have modified lot coverage at the request of planning. Okay. Is that what you're
Yeah, and if you can just, I didn't get you to, formally, I didn't do it formally to state it into the record. If you could state that, please.
Yeah, so it's present in the presentation for the record, but I will say it. So originally we were at 41.97%, and the recommendation was to come down to 39%, and then we decided on 38 point something percent. So we shot a little bit lower than that to be sure that we were conforming to the recommendation.
Okay, can you state exactly what that number is? 38 point what?
I could read it from the presentation. I have it on my own computer. I'll read it right now.
It has to be.
So it's
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So it is from 41.97% to 38.74%.
0.74%. Okay. Does that answer your question, Ms. Attarodi? Member Attarodi, is there anything else? All right. There being nothing else, we've got the 5 letters of objection. You've heard from the neighbors. It's 4 variances. And there's, of course, the staff report of March 27th asking for variance 1 to be modified. It has been to 38.74%. Can I get a motion, please? Member Manning.
Through you, Madam Chair, I've listened to the comments of the neighbors, but looking at this application and considering the modification to variance 1, I do believe that all these variances meet the 4 tests. And so I'd like to make a motion to approve this application with the change of number 1 to 38.74%.
Okay, motion from Member Manning to approve this application with those changes. Someone to second this motion? Member Kidd seconds it. All those in favor? This has been unanimously approved with those changes. Thank you, Mr. Abbott. All right, members, if we can move on to item number 28. Item number 28 is 186 Glencairn Avenue. And 186 Glencairn Avenue, we only have one person here to speak to this application, which is a proposal to construct a second story near rear dormer addition to an existing dwelling. We've got the agent on the line, Tom Sprague. Mr. Sprague, are you there?
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Tom Sprague. Our company is Sprague and Company Architects, and our address here in Toronto is at 156 Duncan Mill Road.
Okay.
Just very brief background of this application is the owners have lived in their home since 2008 and just require a little additional space on the second floor, extending existing dormer there. The variances that you do see before you, one has to do with the side yard setback, and we're just trying to line it up with the existing side wall of the house that presently exists, 1.11 meters. And in doing so, we're going slightly above the 0.35 times the area of the lot. So in my opinion, what's proposed here is very minor, and in my opinion, it's a very reasonable application.
Okay, thank you. Members, we don't have anyone else to speak to this and no other staff reports. Do you have any questions of Mr. Sprague? There being none. Mr. Sprague, is there any final things that you'd like to say on this application?
No, just other than what I've said before. I think this is very reasonable and certainly minor.
No problem. So then, members, can I get a motion? Member Manning.
Through you, Madam Chair, I agree with the applicant that this is a minor application. Planning had no objections, so motion to approve this application with no conditions.
Okay, motion from Member Manning to approve without conditions, seconded by Member Attarodi. All those in favor? Okay, unanimously approved without condition. Thank you, Mr. Sprague.
Very much.
All right. Everyone, if we can turn our attention to item number 29, number 100 Cottonwood Drive. And we have one other person to speak to this application. The agent here is Assad Hoyeb.
Madam Chair?
Yes?
The agent is actually Amir Saham Ariste.
Okay, Amir Saddam. Areste?
Yeah, Amir Saman.
Salam?
Yes.
Amir Saman Areste.
Perhaps she said it so perfectly. I don't even want to butcher it. It was so beautifully said. So I'm going to call Amir on the line. Amir, are you there?
Hi, good
Hello.
afternoon. My name
Yeah.
is Amir Samad Araste. Sorry for the hard name.
No, it's nice.
From
It's very
4789. Thank you. 4789 Young Street, Unit 401.
All
North
right.
York, Ontario.
Do you mind if I just call you by Amir? Is that okay?
Definitely.
All right. Amir, we do have a couple folks registered to speak. And this, just to share with staff, it's 3 variances. There are forestry conditions, and there is a staff report of March 23rd with 1 condition attached. Mr. Amir, if you are able to just share with us a brief presentation, and then we can get to the other speakers, hear what they have to say.
Yes. Sure. So quickly, I would like to add that we are doing a second floor addition on top of existing non-conformance part of our building. The house is already 2-story, and it has a portion that is single-story, and we are doing the addition on top. Unfortunately, the existing portion doesn't meet the existing City of North York zoning bylaws setbacks on the side and on the front. We are not changing. We are keeping the coverage and the height below the allowed amount in the area, much below the 30%. And the item number 3 is the width of the staircase going to the house. And if we consider the existing portion as the front setbacks, that existing staircase is around 30 centimeters behind the existing portion of the front of the house. So once we consider that, if the committee approves that the second floor on top of existing front portion is approved, that proposed staircase and the width of more than 2.5 meters is going to be actually behind the front yard setback. And that's it. If you have any question, I'm more than happy to answer.
All right, thank you so much. Members, do you have any questions of the agent? All right, there being none, let's move over to the first speaker that we've got noted, and I'm wondering if it is Mr. Assad Joheb. Is that it?
Yeah, my name is Assad Joheb, and from 100 Cottonwood Drive. I'm the owner of the property, so I'm just here to
you're
listen.
the owner. Okay, no problem. We didn't know if that was it, so we'll take you off here. Thank you so much. Then let's move on to the next speaker, which is Mr. Makane Kulaji. Mr. Makane Kulaji. Miss?
And yep.
Yes, if
And
you could
this is
state your
Makame-
name and address for our record, please.
Sure, Makame Kulaji, 342 Patricia Avenue.
Yes, great.
And
If you can share your concerns about this application.
sure. I would like to begin with expressing my gratitude to the invitation to this hearing. Firstly, I would like to state that Mr. Kesrai is a valuable neighbor, and we have no intention of causing any trouble with his project. However, I would like to bring to attention some matters. My brother, who lives next door to the property, is a handicapped individual who uses wheelchair and has history of depression. I would like to request that Ms. Kesrai and his team make efforts to minimize any potential disturbance that could arise during the construction process. Secondly, I've observed that there is a tree located in the backyard with significant roots that extends into our property. I would like to request that the main roots of the tree to be removed from our backyard as well, in order to avoid any future issues that may arise. Lastly, I would like to address a matter of the side yard setback. While I'm not a professional in this field, I would like to propose the possibility of moving the building slightly toward the east side rather than reducing the west side setback to 1.22 meters. As the property is situated on a corner lot, I believe this may be a viable option. However, in the event that this is not possible, I would like to understand the implication of reducing the setback to 1.22 meter on any permits that may be required for our property, like whether a distance of like 2.44 meter would be adequate for the space between the two buildings if we request similar setback. I appreciate your attention to these matters, and I hope that my concerns can be taken into consideration during the decision-making process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions? Okay, there being none, I don't have anyone else registered to speak. Amir, if you're able to come back on, you've heard what Ms. Kolaji has said. If you're able to rebut that, you've got 5 minutes.
Yes, I guess there is a mistake here. The person who just spoke, I guess she's not referring to our application, like what she was talking about doesn't apply to our house, basically. If you're not proposing 1.22, like setbacks, or the owner name she was referring to is not the actual owner of the property. I guess this is for the next application, I believe. And she was from Patricia, like this is Cottonwood, far away from Patricia, I guess. Can we double check that?
Okay, let's check this. Hold on 1 second.
Madam Chair, is it all right if I unmute the individual to confirm the address?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's correct. I was for the next property, which is located in 340 Patricia Avenue.
Sorry, I was talking there and I didn't have my mic unmuted. So what I wanted to say is that, next time we should be saying that up front, which one you're talking to, because it was clear it was for 100 Cottonwood Drive. But if you stay on the line, we'll unmute you for the next one. So that leaves us with no one to have spoken to this application. So members, if I can turn it over to you. You've heard from Mr. Amir about this application. There's no one to speak to the application. There's just a staff report with one condition. And there's forestry conditions, only 3 variances. Can I get Member Manning, go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve this application subject to the conditions of forestry and the planning condition that it be developed in accordance with the site plan drawing attached to the March 23rd, 2023 report.
Okay, motion from Member Manning to approve this application subject to those conditions. Can I get a seconder? Seconded by Member Bartolo. All those in favor? Okay, this application has been unanimously approved with those conditions. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Right. So now let's move on to the item that that person was supposed to speak to Ms. Kolaji, but we've already heard some of what she said. This is 340 Patricia Avenue, Ali Tagavi. Are you there? Ali Tagavi?
Hi, my name is Ali Tagavi.
Yes. Can you state your address for our record, please?
My address is 183 St. Anthony's Court, Richmond Hill, Ontario, L4C44.
Okay. If you can provide us just with a brief presentation, we do have forestry conditions on this application, 5 variances. There is one person to speak. You might have heard her already speaking for the last application. So she may not have to repeat too much, but we'll get her back on. Is there, and you're aware of a staff report? We did have a late staff report. Perhaps we could pull that up now if there's any possibility to just do that so members see that there was a staff report that did come in. And for Mr. Tagavi to see it as well, it was dated April 5th, and they basically had some recommendations that if we choose to approve this application, they recommend that the following variances be modified. That is variance 1 with the proposed side yard setback from 1.22 to 1.5, and modify variance 2 with the sidewall height from 8.23 to 8 meters or lower. And if, those aren't done, they're recommending refusal of those variances. Are you okay with that?
Yes, as we talked to the staff, we accepted their recommendation, and I would like to modify item 1 and item 2.
Okay, so if you could put it for the record, just state it for the record what you're modifying from what to what.
Yes, modifying variance number 1 regarding the proposed side setback from 1.22 meter to 1.5 meter.
And variance number 2, yeah.
Also modifying variance number 2 regarding the proposed sidewall height from 8.23 to 8 meter.
18 meters.
8 meter.
8 meters, yes. 8.0, okay. All right, we've got that noted here. So now, if you can just provide us with a brief presentation on the merits of your application.
Yes. Sure. Item number 1 and item number 2, as we mentioned, we softened those things to follow their staff recommendation. Item number 3 is, to me, is very minor. We are requesting from 30 to 31%, only 1% more coverage. Item number 4, on the flanking side, the site plan shows that there is a massive tree owned by the city in front of the north part of the house. As a result, the garage had to be placed in the middle, which is an unusual arrangement or placed near the intersection, which is not desired. If committee approves this item conditionally, we will be committed to fulfill the transportation and urban forestry conditions. And again, on item number 5 as well is very straightforward. I don't think I need to explain it. If there is a question, I can answer. Also, I heard the neighbor's concern, and Mr. Castro, the owner, is here. He heard those things as well. I want to point out a few things. First, we will do our best to maintain all the construction process. The way doesn't bother the neighbor. As they mentioned, they have handicap living in that house. And the other side, we will do our best to make sure that the tree removal being done professionally with no damage on their property. And also they mentioned something about regarding the side setback. So as I mentioned in the modification part, we are moving 1 foot further from their house. That may address their concern as well. But if anything else, because her explanation was regarding the previous application, I wasn't perfectly paying attention. If there is something else, I might be able to address that as well.
Okay, thank you for that. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Tagavi? Okay, if there being none, Mr. Tagavi, I just wanted to know, you did hear what the other person had said, Ms. Kalaji, in the last application, which was really meant for yours. Did you happen to hear that at all?
Yes, I heard, and I answered some of them in my presentation.
All
But,
right, well, let's still bring her
because
back out.
because it
Yeah, I just want to
okay,
still bring
yes.
her back out. I just wanted to make sure that you at least had heard it so that, you know, perhaps she doesn't have to repeat everything. So let's pull her back in. Ms. Kolaji, are you there?
Yes, I am. Sorry
Yeah.
about the confusion. I just heard my name and I was just like doing something else at the same time. But yeah, they heard everything and I think we're all good. Thanks a lot.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to sort of just say to make sure that, you know, so I mean, I think he tried to address it in the presentation. Was that addressed for you, or was there anything else you wanted to raise with him?
Yep, they mentioned that they're gonna, there's a tree that needs to be removed from their backyard. And one of the requests that I had was, if possible, the roots of the tree, which are all in our backyard, can be taken care of too, which they said that will be done. And that's amazing. Thank you.
All right, and this will be subject to forestry anyway, so, you know, we will be making sure that the right things are done in terms of the forestry aspect for both your backyards there. Okay?
Sure.
All right, so why, if that's it, Mr. Tagavi, do you have anything else that you wanted to add before we take it into committee?
No, as I mentioned, we will do our best to keep the neighbor happy with the construction. I know construction is going to be a hassle for neighbors a little bit anyways, but we will do our best to minimize that.
Okay. And is there nothing else that you wanted to address from her presentation or anything else like that? I just wanted to give you any final opportunity.
No, if there's no question, I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Members, do you have any questions of either the agent or Ms. Kolaji, just in case I didn't get to that one? Okay. That being said, then let's move into decision making. Member Attarodi, go ahead.
Just a quick question. Do we receive any transportation letter or condition? Do we have any transportation
Not
conditions?
that I note. There is nothing from transportation on this one. Oh, really? Okay, I spoke too soon. Yeah. Apparently there's something. If we can pull that up on screen. Sorry, I did not see this fast enough. So it is transport. If we can go back down to the bottom to see what they're saying. No objections. Okay. If you go all the way down. Conclusion, yeah. So there are conditions here. If you can make that a little bit bigger. All right, so it's some specific conditions that I see here around the transport. Mr. Tagavi, are you in agreement with that? You're aware of that? I just want to bring it back to the agent.
Hi, sorry, I was muted by your
Yes,
colleague.
okay, no problem. I just wanted to double check
yeah.
if this was, you're okay with these recommendations, as you can see on the screen?
Yes, for sure. We are okay with those recommendations, and we will fulfill those recommendations.
All right,
if you want to add a condition, we will be okay.
Okay, that's great. All right, members, you're now aware. I'm sorry this was pulled up a little bit late, and we went kind of in different directions for this one, but I think we get the gist of everything. So we've got the transport report with conditions. We've got, you know, the staff report that had those conditions that were met by the agent here today. Forestry conditions, 5 variances, and a neighbor whose concerns have been addressed as well. Can I get a motion? Okay, Member Bartolo.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, through you. In listening to everything here, I don't see any major issues with this. The applicant has agreed with the planning department on making some revisions and working with their neighbors. So I'll put forward a motion to approve this application with the following conditions: that variance number 1 be reduced to 1.5 meter setback from the west main wall. That variance number 2, the proposed height of the side exterior wall facing the lot line is now 8 meters and subject to the requirements of the urban forestry and transportation memos attached.
Okay, thank you for that. Member Bartolo with a motion to approve this application, subject to those conditions, seconded by Member Atarodi. All those in favor? Okay, unanimously approved with those conditions. Thank you, Mr. Tagavi. Your application has been approved. Members, let's move on to item number 31. This is number 27 Park Lane Circle. 27 Park Lane Circle. There are 5 variances. There is a staff report with 2 recommendations on it. I've got one other person that is speaking here as well. The agent that I have listed, and I'm just double checking this, is a Richard Wengel. Is that correct? Mr. Wengel, are you there?
Actually, Michael Goldberg, the planner, who will be speaking.
Okay, that's okay, no problem. So, Mr. Goldberg, I also had you listed for the next item, number 32. Was that correct as well?
Madam Chair, it's Michael Goldberg from Goldberg Group. I am listed for both 31 and 32, and I will be speaking to both items. Mr. Wengel is here in the event there are any questions of the architect.
Okay, perfect. So, Mr. Goldberg, because there is one other person here noted to speak on this application, if you could provide us with a brief presentation on this. I do note that you do have one letter of support, that there's a staff report with a couple of recommendations and forestry conditions. We've got 5 variances. Feel free to share with us the merits of this application.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a presentation, and it might be helpful to the committee members if it was put up on the screen.
Okay, we're putting that up. If you want to begin, we'll get that in there.
Thank you so much. No, there's a presentation there, not my letter.
Okay, they're getting the presentation up. Maybe if you could just sort of begin, and we'll slide into
fine.
it. Yeah.
This letter is in the general location of the Post Road and Bayview Avenue area. It's the first street. To the east of Bayview is Park Lane Circle. There we go. And you could see the intersection there. You could see in context the location of the subject site. Could you please turn the slide, please? So this is the subject site and the immediate area of the subject site. The site is a very large site. It has approximately 75 meters of frontage and approximately 108.5 meters of depth. It's a 2-acre parcel. So it's a very, very large parcel. And this is a neighborhood of extremely stately homes. You can see at 21 Park Lane Circle, that's a 2016 C of A approval, and it is also a recent build. It has similar height to what's being proposed. Its wings are similar to the subject site in that they are lower and compliant with the bylaw requirement, and there's a similar arrangement and site organization. You can see there's a single driveway going in on there. We have a U-shaped driveway going into a motor court, and that relates to one of the variances that are before you. Next place, please. Next page. This is just the front of the house, and you can see how well buffered it is and how well set back it is, so that there's really, really a private arrangement in this house today and in the future. The building will be set back 30 meters from the front lot line, and this vegetation is largely intended to remain. Next, please. So I just want to quickly go through, you've got the U-shaped driveway. There's also a U-shaped, or I should say a circular driveway today. There's one regulated tree that's affected by the southerly leg of this driveway, and we would be happy to discuss that with urban forestry subsequently during the application process. And the variance just relates to the motor court, like very close to the U-shaped house, or in the hub of the U-shaped house, where there's basically an existing turning circle of a similar dimension right now. Inside or just immediately west, there is a fountain, which is one of the variances that's before you, because it's considered a structure, but there's an existing fountain there today. It's just being rebuilt and slightly moved to the west. It won't be seen by anyone but people on this property. And you can see there's a 30-meter setback, in excess of 6 meters on the south, and approximately 2.5 on the north. The rear yard setback is about 29.8 meters. So I noticed that there is a letter from the neighbor to the behind, on the property behind, and I think Innes is a she name, but Miss Innes Mark asks that there be a minimum of 12.5 meter rear yard setback, and she probably just didn't look at the plans closely, but there's a 29-meter rear yard setback. So in terms of the variances that are before you, we have the planning department letter in support. We have the transportation services division in support, and we have no objection to the conditions that are being requested. The local councillor has not written in, and none of the neighbors have written in, because quite frankly, members of the committee, the way this will be designed, the higher element at the 16.6 meter is it will be from the south, it will be 25 meters, almost 26 meters from the south lot line, and 14.36 meters from the north lot line. So it's all centrally located, will not be visible from the higher elements, will not be visible from the side lot line, not visible from the front, largely because of the significant vegetation that exists there, and is quite well centrally located. In my opinion, these variances meet the 4 tests of Section 45(1) of the Planning Act, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Goldberg. Members, do you have any questions? Okay, there being none, let's move to the next speaker, Mr. Innes Mark. Or is it Mark Innes?
It's Innes Mark.
Innes Mark, okay. And if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure, okay. So my name is Innes Mark, and I live at 16 High Point Road, and I am the backyard neighbor of 27 Park Lane Circle.
Okay. So you're the back neighbor. It is 27, not 57, right? Just to.
I believe the property I believe is 27 Park Lane.
Yes.
So
Okay.
I'm
I just wanted to
High
make
Point.
sure you knew. All right. So if you can share your thoughts on this application, that would be appreciated.
Sure, okay. So I am thinking that it will probably have significant visual impact on my view from my home. Because right now 27 is currently a 2-story family home, and is proposing to be a 3-story family home with proposed building height of 16.16 meters. What's allowed right now is 13 meters. So then that would be an additional like 12 feet higher than what is allowed, and I think there will be a lot of visual impact on my home. So I don't think it's a minor variance. However, if the committee does allow it. I do have a question for Mr. Goldberg. I was just wondering, like, just from their estimates, like he said there won't be any visual impact from the front or the side. So what will it be for me? Just because I just don't have that, I guess, like this, like his, or skill or rendering to figure that out.
Okay, we'll ask him when he returns, but is there any other concerns or thoughts you had that you
Yes.
wanted to share?
Yes, there is. So basically, I did ask for minimum setback, and that was just based on 21. So like I said, I just took that as a minimum, but I wasn't sure what that meant in terms of visuals. So basically, I'm just asking for that minimum setback that was at 21. So Mr. Goldberg already addressed that there would be more than that. He said it would be closer to 25 meter. And then I'm also requesting if the neighbor, if they can maybe plant some tall trees just to help with the visuals also, please.
Okay. Any other comments? Members, do we have any questions for this neighbor? Okay, there being none, let's get Mr. Goldberg back on the line and to perhaps hear your comments
Thank you
back
so
to the
much.
neighbor. Okay.
And I thank Ms. Mark for providing her comments to us. If you look at the photograph that I provided on page 2 of my presentation, or it's actually page 3 of my presentation, I'm sorry. No, going all the way back. There, right there. The rear is going to be very similar to this. There's going to be considerable landscaping along the rear lot line. There's going to be considerable privacy along the rear lot line. But for the opening for the driveway, you can't even see the house during the leafy periods. And plus, there is almost like just 0.2 of a meter shy of a 30 meter setback. It's 29.86 meter rear yard setback. So there is no variance to the rear yard. There is no variance to the landscape open space. We have centrally located the property on this large 2-acre parcel. And that combined with the landscaping that is being preserved and will be planted along the rear lot line, I think will provide considerable benefit, not just to the surrounding neighborhood to the south, and to the north, and at the front, but also at the back.
Okay. Members, do we have any questions of Mr. Goldberg? Yes, Member Manning.
I'm just wondering if you can provide the explanation for variance number 3 again.
Variance number 3. Where's my piece of paper here? Oh no.
It's about the private driveway that leads to the dwelling unit and the frontage greater than 23. Yeah.
Could someone put the site plan on? And it's the courtyard, but I'll explain it when the site plan comes on the screen. Okay, so you can see there's a circular driveway that attaches to the street at the north and south end. Each one of those legs are 6 meters wide with considerable landscaping on the north, between them, and to the south. The 32, you can see the dimension, 32.61 is the motor court in the middle of the U. That's the separation, and it's only that part that has the width that's being required by this variance. In all other respect, and that is set back probably about, it's basically set back at the very top of the, or at the very top or east end of the circular driveway, that the center line of that is about 27 meters from the front lot line. So that width is about 27 meters from the front lot line. Everything west of it is landscaped.
Thank you, that's clear.
Okay, great. If there are no more questions, Members, we've got the staff report with a couple recommendations. There's that 5 variances, a letter of support, and forestry conditions. Can I get a motion, please? Motion from Member Kidd.
Madam Chair, I accept the explanation provided by the agent. That in addition to the support from the planning staff and from transportation, I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application, subject to the conditions from the planning staff report dated April 4, that the driveway width be developed in accordance with the dimensions shown on the site plan drawing and attached to the planning report. And 2, the building height be developed in accordance with the front elevation drawing. Also, I want to make conditional to the forestry conditions number 2 and 4, and also subject to the transportation services conditions set out in their report dated April 2nd, 2023.
Thank you, Member Kidd. We've got a motion to approve this application with those conditions. Can I get someone to second it? Member Manning seconds it. All those in favor? Okay, Mr. Goldberg, your application has been unanimously approved with those conditions. And now,
Thank you all so much.
if you stay online, we've got you also for number 30 Tretti Road, which was formerly 30 Tippett Road. And we don't have anyone to speak to this application. And I do see that there is 4 variances, no other staff reports unless, is there a transport report? Yes, there is a transport report that came in that I would like to bring up on the screen just to double check. And we're getting it up there.
Yeah, the transportation services had no objection, members of committee.
So there's no objections. Do they have, let's just double check, there's no conditions as well. All right, so just because we've been, there have been some reports that came in much later, and so I want to make sure that members were aware. Members, seeing all of this and there's nothing else, do you require a presentation on this application? Okay, there being none. Member Manning, you'd like a presentation?
I was just wondering if there's any explanation for variance 1.
Okay, go ahead, Mr.
Yep.
Goldberg.
Thank you. Yes, I can provide this is a condominium that is in the Allen Road and Wilson area. It's a constructed condominium. It is located at the end of a cul-de-sac that was created by way of plan of subdivision. You probably have the plans for this application, and the plans for this application show that the non-residential floor space is at the very north east corner. Yes, it's in that shaded area. So the only public roads are the end of the cul-de-sac and that new road, which is a private street that's called Tretti Way. The rest of it fronts onto pedestrian ways, and you can see that large amount fronting onto basically a noise wall and a walkway next to the Allen Road. So it's just intrinsically, members of committee, a really bad location for non-residential uses. It would only be, its exposure is largely to foot traffic. Its foot traffic is probably, possibly busy through the middle of the day or at peak hours. Other than that, not so much at all. And they have made the owners collective, who are extremely experienced developers and operators of building, have made their best commercial efforts to lease and sell this space as non-residential space and have been unable to do so. The flip side of it is that this space can be used for 16 residential units. And it's a good location for the residential units. You have a letter from the local councillor, Mr. Pasternak, who is completely in support of this. He's understanding. He actually provides a rather detailed explanation, as do I, in my cover, or my colleague Todd Trudell, in our cover letter to the application. But that's our explanation, that this was probably ill-conceived, I will say, to put non-residential at this location to begin with, and the commercial marketplace has borne that out. I'm sorry, I can't hear anything. Is there any speaking taking place?
Sorry, I just, I think you got cut off there and then was. Okay, sorry, we thought there was more that you were going to add, and I think everyone's remained silent now.
Oh, I apologize.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any more questions? If there being none, can I entertain a motion on this application? Okay, Member Bartolo?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, through you. I see no reason to hold this application back, and I agree with the arguments made by the applicant. I'm going to put forward a motion to approve this application without condition.
Okay, motion from Member Bartolo to approve this application without condition, seconded by Member Kidd. All those in favor? Opposed? Member Atarodi dissenting. Mr. Goldberg, your application has been approved.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Have a
thank
nice
you.
day.
All right. Members, we have 3 more to go. One of them the next one has a couple other speakers. Do you need a break or should we keep going? Yeah, 10 minutes? Okay,
Take
I
10
see
minutes.
members saying they need a little 10 minutes, so let's do that to get our minds fresh. We'll be back in 10 minutes. Thank you. Okay, members, I think our break is up. Let's get back to the last three items of the evening, and let's start with item number 33, which is 38 KEEWATIN Avenue. We do have three additional neighbors that wish to speak to this application, and this application is to enlarge an existing garage and construct an addition above the garage, which will contain a residential unit. We do have 8 variances. There is forestry conditions, and there is a recent staff report that recommends refusal. There is 5 letters of objection, and so let's call out the agent. We've got a Craig Race. Craig Race, are you there?
Yes, hello, Madam Chair.
Right, and if you can let me know your name and address for our records, please.
Craig Race, 282 Richmond Street East, Suite 200, Toronto.
Okay, thank you so much for that, members. Because we do have a few other speakers noted to speak to this application, and there is a recommendation for refusal, can you give us a presentation on the merits of your application before we continue?
Could staff please pull up our supporting material, please? I do have a presentation prepared. The application before you is for a 2-bedroom garden suite with an internal garage. As mentioned, it is a renovation and addition to an existing brick garage. Next page, please. Context is very important in this application. It is adjacent to Yonge Street and 4 blocks north of Eglinton Avenue. Immediately north of the subject property are a series of 3-story apartment buildings. And if you note in the thumbnail image, all of these properties are within the same residential zone category. There's quite a diverse array of housing here. Next page, please. The subject property is among a wide array of dense housing typologies and adjacent to the mixed-use commercial zone of Yonge Street. It's a 5-minute walk to the Eglinton subway station. And I just find this image particularly compelling when we're asking ourselves if the neighborhood can support 1 additional housing unit. Next page, please. The garage being converted forms part of a string of 4 rear yard garages behind KEEWATIN Avenue and an infill house on Sherwood Lane. 3-story apartment buildings are to the north. There are existing 2- and 3-story structures on all sides of the proposed building area. Access to the garden suite would be provided via an existing driveway that's to the side of the main house on the subject property. Next page, please. I would like to note that we are pursuing these variances rather than an as-of-right building massing to make use of the existing garage structure. Relying on this structure will minimize the need for excavation and demolition that affects adjacent properties, as well as reduce the carbon footprint. We also craft our buildings to fit into established context. In this location, the proposal will remain part of the row of existing rear yard structures and be located closer to the taller neighbors to the north and west, preserving rear yard space. Also, while the existing garage is built to the rear lot line, the new second floor will be stepped in by 1.2 meters to create a north setback, reducing shadow and perceived massing. Next page, please. To summarize the variances being sought, the building is closer to the rear and side lot lines than an as-of-right garden suite would be. Again, this was a response to context and for reuse of the garage. There are variances for parking and units on the site, both of which are being eliminated by emerging bylaw changes to reduce parking requirements and provincial law to allow multiplexes on all properties in Toronto. It should be noted that the application meets all soft landscaping requirements, lot and rear yard coverage requirements, and there are no windows in side yards. Next page, please. We completed a sun study, which you will note illustrates how the substantial majority of new shadow will be cast onto adjacent garage roofs and paved parking areas. No green space will receive shadow, except to the north, where the new shadow is similar in depth to the tall garage 2 houses east and substantially less than the infill house fronting Sherwood Lane. Next page, please. I'd like to address the planning report for this application by analyzing the official plan amendment written by City Planning when they created the Garden Suite bylaw. It includes a very pointed list of qualities to be maintained when minor variances are being sought for a garden suite. These include preservation of trees, control of privacy, protection of soft landscaping, and they encourage reuse of existing structures, this application complies with all of them, and in many cases exceeds them. For example, this application will increase the amount of soft landscaping on the site. We collaborated with planning throughout our design process and used their official plan guidelines in crafting our proposal, which is why we actually believe this is a laudable example of how to fulfill planning's expanding housing options efforts. Next page, please. In addition to our collaboration with planning, outreach was undertaken to the local councillor, and the owners completed a thorough door knocking campaign, including in the apartments to the north. And the chair forgot to mention there are 8 letters of support for the application. Next page, please. In conclusion, the garden suite policy was put in place by City Council to increase the supply and type of housing available in the city. Garden suites are one of many policies the City of Toronto is leading through its Expanding Housing Options initiative to encourage property owners to develop secondary and infill dwelling units in an effort to address housing diversity and affordability in established neighborhoods. Those are not my words. I got those from the City of Toronto website. In addition to my architecture practice, I'm a co-founder of Landscape. I worked with city staff in creating the laneway suite policy that was passed in 2018. Since then, I've worked on approximately 200 laneway and garden suite projects. My career has been built on transforming neighborhoods, and this is a case where a garden suite is actually not going to transform a neighborhood. I've never worked on a project where a garden suite is touched by the shadow of a high rise and adjacent to multiple 3-story apartment buildings. It's a permitted use for all sites in the immediate vicinity, and we believe it will complement the vast array of housing typologies already established in this neighborhood and continue Toronto's effort to infill rental opportunities where we need them the most. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions? Okay, there being none, let's then move on to the first speaker. Sorry?
Madam Chair.
Yes,
sorry.
go ahead.
I have a question.
Please proceed, yes.
Through you, Madam Chair. I would like to ask Mr. Race to go to the barriers and let us know which one are existing situation.
Okay. Mr. Race, if you're able to share that information with Member Attarodi, which ones are existing? Perhaps staff would be able to pull up the list there and you can tell us.
Certainly. Side yard setbacks and rear yard setbacks are all existing conditions.
Are you able to go through the variance numbers for her?
So on the zoning notice, that is number 4 and number 5, I believe.
Okay.
The number 10, the number of permitted dwelling units on the lot is an existing variance. And number 9, the number of lawfully existing parking spaces is an existing variance. That is all.
Madam Chair, I think we have different.
Yeah, no, it's he was looking at the zoning notice. Are you able to share that about the public notice where we have a noted 8 variances? So I think that's what the difference was. Are you able to share with us what are those numbers again that are existing?
I'm sorry, I was not looking at what staff is sharing. So that would be number 1, number 2, number 3. And if you can scroll down, please, I believe number 7 and number 8 are all existing conditions.
Okay, so the new ones really are just 4, 5, and 6.
That is correct, which would be the area of the garden suite and angular plane requirements.
Okay. Member Attarodi, does that help?
Yes, it helps. And also regarding the area of the suites, because there is two way of checking it. would you please explain? So I think it's 60. You request 93.94 square meter. Where it says 60 square meter, which required. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions before we move on to the speakers? All right. Then we've got on the line is Ione Cormendi. Ione Cormendi, are you there? Or a Joni Jarvis. I think they're both at the same address.
Hello?
Hello. Could you state your
I'm
name
sorry.
and address for the record, please?
My name is Ione Cormendy. The address is 32 KEEWATIN Avenue.
Okay, thank you. And if you can share your thoughts on this application with us?
Okay, sorry, I missed the whole presentation that Craig Race just did. I couldn't get any sound, so I'll just go ahead. I live next door on the west side, and the impact on my privacy will be quite serious. The size and height of this proposal is not minimal. The second floor will be well over the height of the existing privacy fence, and it will, as far as I can see, the lot coverage is allowed at 60%, or 40%, which is 60 meters squared. They are asking for 60% at 93.94 meters squared. This is not a minor variance as far as I can see anyway. And if the second story goes on there, I will have absolutely no privacy whatsoever. There will also be other neighbors that will lose their privacy as far as looking in their bedrooms, and various things as well. The other thing is, if he wants to use the existing brick walls to add on to, right now there is only 4 inches between our two garages. If the second story goes straight up from there, there will, on my top of my garage, there will be drifting snow, there will be drifting leaves, and this will severely damage my roof because it's a flat roof. And unfortunately, my health does not allow me to be climbing up on the roof every week to clear it off anymore. The other issue that I would like to bring up is the fact that parking on KEEWATIN is already congested. Across the street is a school loading zone, and on the south side, and the parking on the north side is a no parking zone, but a lot of people park there all day anyway, and it is just to get in and out, or even get down, for cars to get down KEEWATIN at that end is quite difficult. And I think that's about it right now. But I really don't think that some of these things are minimal.
Okay, thank you so much for that. We'll certainly hear back from Mr. Race on some of your concerns. And in the meantime, members, do you have any questions of this? Yes, Ms. Manning, Member Manning, go ahead.
You just mentioned that you had some privacy concerns, but there's no side windows. So I'm just wondering if you can explain what exactly the privacy concerns are.
It's not the side windows that will look into my backyard. It's the front windows that will look into my backyard. Now, if this was only going to be a one-story thing, then there wouldn't be a problem because the fence is there and that sort of thing. But you get those windows up top there, and the only place they can look is into my backyard. And I have a tree at the end of my house, which I'm going to have taken down because when the wind blows in that, I'm scared stiff it's going to fall on Lawrence's house. So I'm having to have that taken down. And I have like a solarium at the back, and he will be able to look straight into my house, top and bottom.
Thank you.
Any other questions, members? Okay, if no other questions, Let's move on to the next speaker. The next speaker is Joni Jarvis. I think it's of the same address. I don't know if they're there.
Yes. My name's Joni Jarvis, and I also reside at 32 KEEWATIN. I would like to take on a couple of comments that Craig said and challenge them. There is no way KEEWATIN is 5 minutes to the Eglinton subway station. I walk that quite often, and it's close to 15 minutes, and it may not seem like a lot, but to me, facts are facts. Also, he talks about the house being an infill. If you read some of the letters you've received, you realize that that house is not an infill. That is another misnomer. It is not a fact at all, and that needs to be taken into consideration. The other issue that hasn't been driven today is that the current house has 5 dwelling units in it now, and if you approve the garden suite, that will put 6 units. And I do not believe that a residential property should have 6 units. Yes, Lawrence may live in one, but he's renting out the rest. But I will be honest, what really bothers me is the same thing I own said. I'll lose I'll seriously lose my privacy. More importantly, I won't be able to open the blinds to my bedroom anymore. I literally lose all of the privacy if he builds it with all the windows that he's planning to put across the back. And if you approve this application as it is, it will create a precedent for other homeowners on KEEWATIN to build garden suites at the back of their properties. And I'm not too sure that's something you really want to see happen, but you create precedent by approving it once. You know, if you, as mentioned in our letter to you, if you do elect to approve it, like you've got to, all of the variances are major, and they should be rejected in their entirety. If he does want to build the building, get rid of the garage. The garage is dilapidated now as it is. So get rid of the garage and build at ground level. At least then that will leave us without privacy. And the other thing is, we want information that Lawrence is not going to rent that garden suite out, that it's going to be used for personal use only. I'm terribly sorry, but this is very distressing for me, very distressing for my own. And there are several other neighbours that we've talked to that have the same distress. Unfortunately, the ones next to my own, where the way it's situated now, they'll be able to look into their backyard and their bedrooms. They're in Florida, so that's why they can't speak today. So please take a real look at this before you just give it an nod, because it's going to take away our quality of life if you approve it. Thank you for listening to me.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Jarvis. Members, do you have any questions of Ms. Jarvis as we move ahead? Okay, there being none, then let's move on to Greg McNeil. Mr. McNeil, are you there? You're unmuted. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, if you could state your name and address for our records, please.
Yeah, my name is Greg McNeil. I live at number 7 Sherwood Lane. I hadn't planned on speaking, but I'm delighted to have the opportunity, having watched your I was going to say the show, but the program for since 1:30. One thing that struck me as I was listening, because I don't know a whole lot about, the bylaws and things of that sort, but all the minor variances today that were listed were 2 and 3 and 2 and 3 and 1 and a couple of 4s. So when I first saw 8 variances, I thought that was rather shocking. And what struck me in the presentation is the reference to Sherwood Lane and the infill house. So we own that house. It isn't an infill house. It's a commercial building that's over 100 years old. And the home was created over 40 years ago. And I did have that discussion with Craig, and he said it's a common reference. When I phoned the city, they said, when I described our property, they said, no, ours is not an infill house according to the city and the people with whom I spoke. But the inference is that that was fairly newly built and that the laneway has been this, area of development. There has been none since we've been here for 14 years, and nothing has been built in the lane. And that may be peripheral, but it sort of set up their case that this is a big transitional area. The laneway hasn't changed, so that's that part. The other piece was, what is minor? And I think the women who spoke addressed this already. But when I see variances of 56% and 60% and 250% on the various criteria, I just say there's no way that could be considered minor. And based on all your decisions today, those decisions would sort of support that perspective. At any rate, that's my perspective. I think the ones that were cited, what I mentioned in my letter is that traditionally backyards are areas for privacy. And in this case, the second floor of windows in the proposed building faces other people's kitchens and bedrooms, and that takes away the privacy. And I haven't heard from Minto, but I did speak with many of them at Minto. And they're greatly concerned about the blockage over the units on the ground floor. It would take away their light totally. So that would be a summary. The rest I'd be repeating. So thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions? All right. If not, we'll bring back Mr. Race. You've heard from the three neighbors, their concerns, their thoughts, their comments, and you get 5 minutes to rebut and provide your thoughts as well.
Thank you. I'll try to parse through them. With respect to drifting snow and building on a zero lot line, this is a very common situation with laneway suites in our office, and we have found that snow and constructing up against a property line is an accepted construction methodology that is suitable when garages are nearby. There was a comment about car access. It should be noted that all access to the site will be via a driveway that already exists off KEEWATIN Avenue. It is a side driveway by the main house, and that's how day-to-day access will be provided to the garden suite, as well as vehicle access to the site in general. There were quite a few comments about height and privacy. I would like to note there is no variance for overall height. We did specifically keep this to 6 meters, which is the permitted height for a garden suite. And with respect to privacy, as mentioned, we did not include any side-facing windows. We are concerned about views into the building as well as out. So we have tried to carefully place windows in a place where the occupants won't have people peering in, as well as vice versa. But also, there's already a row of 3-story apartment buildings looking directly into all of these backyards. So overlook is an existing condition that we are not making worse by any means. There were a couple notes too about just really considering if this is suitable for the area. Ms. Carmody and Ms. Jarvis should know that their lot is eligible for a garden suite without minor variances, as is this site and all other houses along KEEWATIN Avenue. This is a permitted use in the neighborhood, and an as-of-right garden suite can have windows that face the side lot lines. So an as-of-right condition could perceivably be worse for privacy and overlook than is proposed here. We actually think this is a more ideal compromise to work with the existing massings of the adjacent buildings and the existing garage structures. And this difference or the separation between the main houses and these rear yard structures is quite a lot. It's nearly 100 feet. These lots are very deep. So the separation is substantial compared to most garden suite circumstances. Finally, I certainly appreciate Mr. McNeil's comments. He was someone that was helpful as a collaborator throughout our process. I think it's important to know that his house was a guiding light for us in this exercise. It's a good example of how mid-block houses can exist in this area and actually have for decades. We want to follow that example and use the new as of right bylaws, but in a different way to work with the context and the existing buildings in a way that we think is actually a benefit to the neighbors, both from a construction impact perspective, as well as what's going to result from the final built form. If there are any other questions, I'm pleased to take them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions? Okay, there being none. So we've got 8 variances, forestry reports. There is, of course, the staff report recommending refusal, but we have heard some letters of objection as well as voices of objection. Now it's time for decision making. Members, if you have no other questions, can I get a motion, please? Okay, Member Manning.
Through you, Madam Chair, I've listened to the neighbors, I've listened to the applicant. Well, I think the intention of building more more units is desirable. I do agree with the staff report in regards to the size and the massing and the separation of these units. And I do not think that these variances are minor or that they meet the intent of the bylaw. Therefore, through you, I move to make a motion to deny this application.
Okay, motion from Member Manning to refuse this application. Is there anyone to second this motion? If no one seconds it, this motion fails. So no seconding, this motion does not pass. So can I get a new motion? Member Kidd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with Ms. Manning that it's a difficult decision in that I rarely go against the planning staff recommendation, but in this case, I find it hard to believe that when the city passed the bylaw for garden suites, that this was not the type of development that they intended. So I'm going to put forward a motion to accept the application and make it subject to forestry condition.
Okay, motion from Member Kidd to approve the application subject to forestry. Can I get someone to second that motion?
Just a friendly amendment that transportation have some condition.
Oh, yes,
for this
absolutely. Transportation conditions as well. If Member Kidd is amenable.
Thank you, Ms. Adarati. Yes, I'd like to make it subject to transportation conditions that are set out in their transportation report dated April 2nd, 2023.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So motion from Member Kidd to approve with conditions of forestry and transportation, seconded by?
So before I second it, I just want to mention that we have although we have 8 variants, but 5 of them is triggered by existing situation, and we have 3 variants that we are dealing with. And I agree with Paul comment, Mr. Kidd, that that's a city policy to have more, to prepare more housing. Therefore, and look at the location and the situation of this site, I believe that this is appropriate. Therefore, I second it.
Okay, thank you for that, Member Attarodi. All those in favor? Okay, opposed, dissenting is Member Manning. Your application has been approved, Mr. Race. Thank you for that
Oh,
with those
yeah,
conditions.
fucking right.
We did hear you out loud. But all right, so we'll move on to the next application. What a day. Item number 34, 44 Donegal Drive. And this is an application that has 8 variances, 2 letters of objection, and 1 is from the Leaside Residents Association. And this application is to construct an addition to the rear and new second story of an existing residence. We do have one other person lodged to speak, a neighbor. So let's get Albert Yerushalami.
Yes.
Albert Yerushalami.
Yes, hi. Good
Yerushalami.
evening.
Yes.
Yes, good
If you
evening.
could state your
My
name
name is
and
Albert.
address for the record, please.
My name is Albert Yerushalmi. I'm from Eden Engineering and Design. Address is 34 Pheasant Valley Court, Markham, Ontario.
Okay, thank you. And because we do have one other person here to speak, if you don't mind providing, there's no other staff reports or anything like that, but we do have someone here to speak to the application. So if you can provide a brief presentation on this application.
Yes, madam. This application is a returning application. It was deferred last year because of a laneway suite that was intended to be built at the rear, and we decided not to proceed with that. So the application is regarding to the extension of a one-story building by 12 feet to the rear and add an additional floor on top, which creates eight variances that mostly are minor. So if you have any questions, I can answer. And I can mention that I responded to the letters of objection. I met with the neighbor 46 and we came to terms. And he was very happy with what I proposed. And I tried to contact Mr. Jeff Cattell from Leaside Association, but there's no number. So I sent him an email to mention that his letter of objections has 2 items wrong, but we reached to that if I'm requested to answer.
Okay, thank you for that, and thanks for mentioning that you tried to reach out to the Leaside Neighborhood Association. Members, do you have any questions for Mr. Yerushalami? If not, we're going to move on to the next speaker, Mr. Ken Wantz. Mr. Wantz, are you there?
Mine.
Yes, if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, it's Ken Wantz. My address is 46 Donegal Drive.
Okay, Mr. Watts, if you can share with us your thoughts on this application.
Okay, one of the concerns I have is about the size that they're wanting to make it. Right now, the bungalow that currently exists on the property, as I've stated my objection, is only just approximately 82 square meters. What they're proposing is to add a second story, add an extension, and put a basement suite in as well to bring it to 322 meters, or about a 400% increase in floor space. Now, if you were to lay those out flat, if you look at the size of the lot's only 339 square meters. So the living space is almost the entire size of the lot. A second thing that I've questioned to the zoning examiner, but unfortunately the Abby Wang, who is the person that was assigned it, she's out of the office until April 17th. And I had to send it to the office completely. And what they did, Alex Stemilt, I think, responded to me. The last comment I got from him was on the March 30th when he said we will respond shortly. I have not received anything as to my question. And my question basically is the couple of the bylaws that they have here. One of them being the floor area, where it says that, well, I didn't put this in for simplicity. If it was a bungalow, you could use the entire basement as a suite. However, if it's not a single floor, which in this case they're wanting to have a second floor, they suggest it's going to be 45% of the interior floor area. Now, the thing I got from I was talking to someone at the city there, and they consider the floor area as to the first floor as well as the second floor. But when they show the information, I got information that talks about the gross floor area, not just the floor area. And where'd I have it here? The area that I've got is primarily when they talk about, there was two things. There was a floor area that I mentioned, then a description. There's a definition for a gross floor area, which says the sum of the total area of each floor level of a building above and below the ground. So that's gross floor area, but internal floor area simply means the floor area of any part of a building measured to the interior side of the main wall, B, the center line of an interior wall, or a line delineating the part being measured. And floor area, the bylaw, which is 10.5.40.40, paragraph 3A, indicates that, okay, residential zone category, the gross floor area of a residential building other than an apartment building may be reduced by the floor area of the basement. So they're talking about floor area as being a single level, not the thing. So this is my discrepancy. I haven't got back from zoning any clarification on that. That's one of a big point there. And that leads into a point that was not mentioned anywhere else. And that's, if you look at the plans and that, from the basement suite, if it is approved.
If I can
you'll
ask you
have
to
200
summarize, please.
Okay, one out the basement and one out the side. The second floor's got 3 entrances, front, back, side. The 4 bedrooms at the top, 1 entrance. If there is a fire, what is the people sleeping on the 4th or the second floor going to do? That's a major objection I've got as a fire hazard for anybody sleeping on that second floor. Should a fire start in the basement?
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions? Okay, there being none, let's get back to Mr. Yerushalami, the agent. If you can come back on. You've heard some of the concerns that the neighbors the neighbor has indicated. Some fall within the parameters of our variances and others do not. I'll leave it up to you to address these concerns. You have 5 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. The FSI in this case was originally 66, which is allowed in that area 60. We had 66, we reduced it to 63. And honestly, I don't believe that the second unit, I have applied for many of them. The second unit, once you apply on an existing building, it never adds up. It never is added to the GFA. It has a separate bylaw. So regardless, we have a 63% to approve in the variances and not more. So that should respond to the basement. And regarding the exit, we have a separate exit in the back, and we have an exit right on the north side of the property, which is more than enough for a emergency situation. And I just need to mention that I spoke with Mr. Once at length last Friday, and I realized that one of his main grievance is that if he extend the house to the rear by 12 feet, he's going to have more snow to plow. That's not our problem, that's his problem, because we don't have any garage entrance. But I proceeded and I suggested, for good neighborhood terms, to put heating cables along all the mutual laneway in order for him to lessen his work. He's in that age that shouldn't really snowplow, and he was very happy. And I really don't think that a second unit, if ever happens there, is going to be going to bother anybody. This is very commonplace in Toronto and other GTA areas, a second unit for shortage of housing. And that's it. We have 63% FSI. We don't have more. And in that street, 69% has been approved already by, and in 67 in 761 Millwood Road, and in Parkhurst, which are all within 100 meters, 60, also 63%. So that's a 3% additional is not something unusual in that area.
Okay, thank you. Members, do we have any questions? If not, members, then, we've got 8 variances, a couple letters of objection, which you've heard. One of them is the Leaside Association. Some of them pertain to the variances, some do not. If you have no more questions, can I get a motion, please? Motion from Member Bartolo.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. In reviewing the application and hearing what everybody said today, while I understand there may be some frustration with it, it seems like a lot of the arguments against this proposal are not based on the merits of the variances, and there's no objection from city staff, and what's being proposed here, I believe, is reasonable. So I'll put forward a motion to approve this application as is.
Okay, thank you, Member Bartolo. With a motion to approve this application, can I get a seconder? Seconded by Member Manning. All those in favor? Unanimously approved. Your application has been unanimously approved, Mr.
Thank you very
Roshan.
much.
Thank you. And let's move on to the last item of the day. Members, this is number 117 Bogert Avenue. This is an application that has no one else to speak to it. It's just the applicant themselves, and this is to build a new single-family dwelling. There is just 4 variances. There's a Melissa Tenpow. Ms. Tenpow, are you there?
Hello?
Yes, hello. If you could state your name and address
Hi, sorry.
for the record,
No problem.
please. Yeah.
My name is Melissa Tempow.
I live at 342 Betty Ann Drive. I'm the owner, representative, and designer of this property. I believe you said there were 4 bylaw zoning notices. I have 3, just double checking.
Yeah, I have it noted as 4 variances. The first one being around the platform, the covered platform located along the lot line. The permitted lot coverage is number 2. And there's around the proposed side yard setback at 1.48 meters. And then finally, number 4 is the proposed side yard setback of 1.2 meters on the west side, so east and west side. Okay, so there you see it.
Okay, sorry, I'm looking at a slightly different letter. So yes,
Okay.
sorry.
All right, so
notice. I was like, oh,
no
I'm not prepared for a
problem.
4th
Let's move this along, and let me just ask members, seeing that there is no other reports or anything else, do you wish for a presentation on this? There being none, Ms. Tenpau, they don't require a presentation, but if there's anything you'd like to say about the application before they take it into committee for decision making, you may do so now.
Thank you. I would just like to say this is pretty much a very simple application. It's keeping within the neighborhood characteristics, and both my neighbors are very happy with the proposal. We've discussed it thoroughly.
Okay, thank you for that. Members, you've heard what the agent has had to say. Nothing else noted for this. Can I get a motion, please? Motion from member Attarodi.
No, I just have it through you, Madam Chair. I have a question for the agent.
Go ahead.
Agent mentioned that she talked with neighbors. Is she referring to neighbors both on the east and west side? And also because the west side yard setback of 1.2, and if I can get explanation regarding variance number 4, which is the west side yard setback 1.2 meter versus 1.8.
Okay.
Yes, we did speak to both east and west neighbors. The reason for the 1.2 is part of the percentage, the 32%, to allow us to have the correct square footage we need for the house, and also not to go too far back because it's only a 110-foot lot. So to get our square footage or our area that we required, we had to make that adjustment. Basically, we'll be coming closer to her building, but not encroaching on it and not changing any of her sidelights.
And she's aware and she's okay with that. You're the neighbor on the west side.
Yes, correct. Yes, she was actually looking to build her own home, so
okay,
she's okay with that.
Okay, and there's no one represented here to speak to this. Is there any other questions, or can we entertain a motion? Motion from member Attarodi.
Yes, to you, Madam Chair. My concern was the west side yard setback. That, with the explanation, I've just been satisfied. Therefore, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with no condition.
Okay, member Attarodi with a motion to approve this without condition. Can I have a seconder? Seconded by member Manning. All those in favor? And your application has been approved without condition, Ms. Tenpau. Thank you very much. That takes us to the end of our day, our committee day. It's been quite the day, and thank you all for hanging in there, and thank you to city staff for being so patient and helpful as well. Member Attarodi, I hope you feel better. Can I get a motion to terminate? Motion from member Manning, and I'll second that. All right, see you all later. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Goodbye. See you later, everybody.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.